Welcome back, Red Spotters, to the show here on the Red Spotlight Entertainment Podcast. I'm your host today, Alexis J. Soto. This is episode 225. As always, we like to begin our podcasts by extending a wonderful fuck you to Elon Musk. And of course, a reminder that on May 27th, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. comes back on TV. Yes, that's true. I'm joined today by one of Jeff Bezos' exes, Alexys Moreno. How are you doing today? And also Peter Martinez, who is the Grim Reaper. How are you guys doing?
Mm-hmm. Wasn't that show canceled?
The Grim Reaper? There was a show called, I think it was Grim.
Shield.
It ran for 6 seasons, I think, on ABC. Grim.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
So,
but I'm pretty sure that other show you mentioned was canceled.
And I'm pretty sure you're full of shit. So, today is a day and another week and another month in the time of COVID-19.
Another month?
Another month.
That's 2 months.
Did you just realize that?
Oh, no.
Well, technically, didn't we start doing this social distance at least mid-March, right? Yeah. So it's...
I stopped working on the 17th, I think.
Yeah.
Oh.
2 months, yay!
A bit of context, and I make sure to look this up. The last time that Alexis Moreno, Peter Martinez, and I were on a podcast, we talked about COVID, which was, I think, episode 222. And at that point, the death toll was at 47,000 Americans dead. Well, as of the date of this recording, and correct me if I'm wrong here, this is May 18th today. Monday, May 18th, 2020 is when we're recording this episode. There are now a little over, or at least at this point, it should be 91,000 Americans dead. So, since the last time the three of us have been on a show together, we went from 47,000 dead to 91,000 dead.
What are we in June? May.
No,
I think they said
not yet.
June.
Not yet. The CDC predicts by June 1st, which is in 2 weeks. The CDC predicts that 100,000 would have already died on June 1st.
2 months. 100,000 dead.
Just about. It's obviously a tragedy.
We're almost reaching the 200,000.
It's obviously a tragedy. I remember reading a report that there are some estimates that could put it at over 200,000 dead by the end of June, depending on how things go. And for those keeping score...
Well, with everyone reopening...
Well, we'll get to that right now. Well, for those keeping score, that's the number that we just crossed this week with 90,000 is 30 times the number of deaths that happened on 9/11. And of course, many, many more thousands of deaths in the entirety of the Vietnam War. And of course, I ask, where is the outrage? Well, there is outrage. And the outrage right now is the fact that masks exist and that they're a thing and that we have to wear them. So... that's where we are right now with COVID-19.
See, I don't like to talk about this because I have anger and it's just...
But this podcast is used for therapeutic purposes. If you'd like to say something, go ahead. If not, you can, keep your mouth shut if you'd like.
Sure. Hi. That's it.
As Peter mentioned earlier about the reopening, so at 2 months, there is a little bit of good news with the 90,000 number hitting is that in the last week, there has been a noticeable slowing down in the number of deaths. I think it used to be that we were losing as many as 20,000 people a week. Last week, we lost only 10,000 people. So I think a lot of people were beginning to see that was the beginning effect of... stay-in-home orders and social distancing. The problem with that is, as Twitter has, accurately said, people have just decided it's over. We've just wished it away. And countless, and I want to say most at this point, states have begun the process of reopening their economies, including the one that we're in right now, and of course, Moreno, who is in Arizona. And of course, we talked about this on Fantasy Fair with Kyle about the guidelines and regulations for Disney parks whenever they open. Curiously enough, in the past day, Bob Chapek, CEO of the Disney company, released a statement, a disclaimer, saying that, by the way, when you show up to Disney Springs when it opens on May 20th, if you get sick, it's on you. So, which is what the
To be fair, it seems a lot of these people are asking for it. So.
Yeah. So
they are. Okay, never. I can't get.
You're not gonna let yourself get into this.
No.
I'm trying to reel you in here. I think people.
You're not gonna reel me.
People want to hear from you. Alexis, how are you holding up throughout all this? 2 months now, stay-at-home orders, and the deaths mounting, the bodies piling up, and people pretending as if it's over.
Oh. No words. I don't know. It's just it's wild. Everything that's happening. I don't know.
I think we can all agree it's a disaster. I mean, I think that's just the best word for what's going on. I fully expect the situation to dramatically worsen. Many more people to die. Many more people to get sick. These economies will inevitably have to be forced to shut down again because of the second or third wave outbreaks.
They won't. They'll just say, too late, we're open. Death is a natural part of life.
Did I get you to comment on something? Oh my God, here we are.
Yes, here. One just real quick. It's a fun fact. It's tiny little tidbit.
So no matter how bad this gets, you're saying now that there's nothing that they'll do to shut down the economy again. It's just going to happen.
No, there's nothing. They'll say, we have the American spirit. We can't let this virus keep us down. Freedom. Rah, rah, rah. No. They're going to say, we're open now. Na-na-na-na boo-boo. No. That's going to be the response. I will say, though, just real quick, little fun fact. The place in which we live is actually number 1 per capita in what's it called?
In the state of California.
Infections. Yeah. We're number 1 per capita in the state of California.
For those not aware of that terminology, what does that mean exactly, Peter?
It means for the, how do we put it? For the number of people that are in our community.
The
population, comparatively, we have the most infected in comparison to
anywhere else in the state.
Our whole population, anywhere else in the state. So it's like San Diego may have overall more people infected, but per capita, we're winning. USA.
Fun.
USA. You live in Texas. You don't have to worry about this.
Well, technically, they're kind of, yeah. So, situations haven't improved much at all as far as that situation is concerned. COVID may be brought up again in terms of one of the topics that we're going to discuss, but let's go ahead and get into what this show is about. We'll start off with some quick topics to get out of the way with. Snyder Cut being apparently imminent on HBO Max's launch in a few weeks. Also, we'll discuss what movies, if they'll ever come back, when they'll come back, with Mulan and Tenet holding firmly to their release dates in July. And we should note that some movie theaters have reopened in scattered areas of the country, depending on what state you live in. And they're showing classic films from what I've read. There are no new films out at all, except on PVOD with Scoob and other stuff like that. Disney Plus adds some much needed content and the help of Hamilton and Taylor Swift. And then, of course, Mandalorian, with more and more characters crowding in the space to the point where there's no Mandalorian left, it seems. And some wonderful commentary on what it is that J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio thought they were doing with the rise of Skywalker, and our takes on what it was that they were thinking on this wonderful, wonderful podcast here. So let's go ahead and get into it with Peter. I want you to start off with this because this is an interesting topic with the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League, because this is, for all intents and purposes, has been kind of a myth for years and years and years by fans of Zack Snyder, and particularly his DCEU trilogy. Of this supposed director's cut that was, by all reports, was just not something that was there, in that it wasn't finished. A director's cut would imply that there is another version of the movie that is finished and completed. That has never, and to my knowledge, has not been the case at all. Many of those reporters within the last 24 hours have basically teased that HBO is going to drop whatever cut they could muster of Zack Snyder's for the launch of HBO Max. There's no details. There's no information about what this would look like. And it is interesting all around when you talk about the fact that this is actually a thing. I guess you can call this a victory for the Release the Snyder Cut campaign. At long last, they've won, and they're going to get what they're going to get. I'm not so sure, though, it'll be satisfactory. But where do we start with this?
I don't know.
I mean, I guess it shouldn't be that surprising that it's happening now, because they've kind of been... There's been a public campaign. There was a point where Zack Snyder himself and Gal Gadot and others even had the whole hashtag Release the Snyder Cut. So I don't know how this happened, but I guess it's happening.
Well, think about it. Like, Netflix pours gallons of money into getting
truckloads of money into getting rather niche things made. $300 million deal to get Ryan Murphy to create new programming on Netflix, like Hollywood right now.
Pretty fucking crazy, because why not? It works. Apparently it does. I mean, Adam Sandler was no longer able to make money on the big screen, but he's fucking killing it on Netflix. Oh yeah, those movies are very popular on Netflix. Very popular. So it's like, if you could target that niche audience with something exciting to sign up.
And HBO Max did just that with J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot. They did a lot of production deals.
They just paid a shit ton of money for him. I don't know why. But they did. This makes sense. I guess what I'm most interested is
what it looks like.
For sure they didn't have a finished cut. And I remember Zack Snyder tried to play really coy with the fact that, like, is there like a finished cut? And he's like, he basically said, like, why would that matter? It exists in my head, basically. Why does it need to be completely finished? So it's like, okay, so it's not finished,
It never was, and we should clarify why that was the case. Unfortunately, he lost his daughter, and there were other political issues that were happening at the studio. The execs didn't really want him anymore, literally while shooting the movie. So it was a combination of things that kind of forced him to step down, and so he never had the opportunity to finish even, I think, shooting the film.
And I guess my question is, they're obviously not going to go back and shoot scenes.
They never did.
Like, they're just
at one point there was I believe in the last year there were some rumors or reports were alluding to the fact that Snyder was trying to lobby Warner Media to to go back and shoot those additional scenes, which I don't know why you would pour any more money into that.
They're not going to do that, right?
They never did, from what I understand.
Like, it's obviously not going to be his vision because he didn't get to finish shooting everything. And then the next question becomes, what about CGI? Mm-hmm. Right? Like, there's maybe some scenes that, like, they took out of the film, obviously, because the movie was 2 fucking hours, that he had wanted to include in his version, that deleted scenes that were left on the cutting room floor that probably require a shit ton of CGI. You know? Did they pay money to do that? Or did they just like color correct it, make it dark and brooding, add in a couple extra scenes that don't require CGI, kind of throw them in there, and then boom, Snyder Cut? Because to me, it just doesn't seem like that would be the Snyder Cut that people wanted. Not
at all. Like, far from it, in fact. And it almost seems, considering how late breaking this news is coming out, you get the idea that perhaps WB was very much indecisive about what to do with this. They were really mulling it over for a couple of years, it seems like, about what to do with this footage. And it seems as if they've been won over by having something to launch with HBO Max, because while we are all excited for HBO Max and the content...
We don't know if it's going to launch with it, though.
We don't know. No, I think that's the plan.
Oh, really?
I think that's the plan, yeah. From what I've read.
That makes me feel like they really didn't do...
No, I don't think they did anything. I think they just assembled it together. From what I have been reading and watching from a lot of these sources, the reason why they were kind of persuaded finally to release this was to have something big launch with HBO Max, because, again, as I said, we all are looking forward to that service. There's not, I think, a big show that's launching with it like Mandalorian did with Disney Plus.
A Snyder Cut is something where you can go like, whoa, that's something. Just purely out of intrigue, people will gravitate, and
I
they're
probably
like,
would watch it. I'm not.
100%.
I've got nothing else to do. I mean, I'm gonna watch The Last Airbender. I mean, Avatar: The Last Airbender. We got a series of shows with that. I haven't seen the show in 10 years, so I'm excited to watch Avatar again. But I mean, I'd watch New Mutants right now if they drop it. I don't know why they haven't done that.
God. I don't understand. Just
we'll get to that in a bit, because that's part of the whole Disney Plus thing. But with the Zack Snyder,
have you guys watched Scoob?
No, I wouldn't pay.
I haven't either.
No, I mean.
No, sorry.
I wasn't interested to begin with. The only one of the animated, like, because we had Scoob and Trolls, the only animated movie that I had any interest in besides Soul this year, of the trailers that I've seen, was the SpongeBob Sponge on the Run thing.
They might do that.
I think they'll release it on
I'm
VOD.
hearing that they might release it. Because, obviously kids' films right now are killer.
Right.
Because kids are fucking annoying, and, they're stuck inside a house. It's like, here's a movie, shut up.
See, I don't want this to be derailed.
If you think I'm being cruel, I worked as a cashier for a few years, and every parent, every single one was like, here's a technology, just look at that and shut up.
Well, that's how some of my friends...
I work at the Disney store.
Right. You both...
Same shit, right?
We all have experience in some... we've all worked in retail. Some of us, like Moreno...
We're the working class.
Literally, Moreno...
The proletariat.
Moreno and I have worked in food service as well. We've come across this, and also, my most recent job, my most recent occupation had me working with children. And part of my job, literally, part of what was required of me was to use technology to shut them up. To get them to listen. So believe me, I understand that more than ever. But what I wanted to say, since you bring that up, is, at least in my neighborhood, in this era of COVID-19, what I've noticed is the number of tree houses that have been like popping up around my neighborhood has been insane. Like, literally, like, tree houses are back in. And not like, like authentic tree house. I mean, like, you buy at Walmart or some shit like that. And it's been insane. And also the number of kids and families that are on bikes. You see bikes back again. It's like honestly a blast from the past to see that kind of thing happen. I've never thought I'd see that. Like, people are so outgoing.
Shit's really crazy when you see them on fucking skates.
Yeah. So it's like,
remember when Sonic made the people wear skates? That was fucking crazy. And then it's just like no one skates.
No.
Like, well, rollerblades. Sorry. People still skate rollerblades.
I never learned how to do that.
I never cared to
use roller skates.
As a kid, I got rollerblades one time, and I was like, "Oh fuck yeah!" And then I put them on, and I fell, and then I never put them on again.
Yeah, no, I was too scared.
They're dangerous. You can't stop.
Those are really scary. So I did the Heelys.
Hell yeah, fucking cool kids Heelys, healing it up.
Yeah. Speaking of technology, I for one am happy Quibi is bombing.
Thriving? Oh, okay.
No, it's bombing. No, that shit's a disaster.
No.
Jeffrey Katzenberg had to come out and say, "Oh, it's COVID-19's fault that no one cares about Quibi." Literally, that's what he said. So it's fucking embarrassing how like abysmal Quibi is doing.
I guess my thing is, if people can have something for free, they rather have it for free.
They wouldn't
right?
pay for it.
And it's like this 10 minutes of entertainment type thing. It's like,
I just feel like the concept is flawed, and then also the timing is. It couldn't have been worse. People want longer form entertainment right now because they've had so much time. Like, it's a disaster. But going back to the Snyder Cut thing.
Oh, yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I know. This happens. Welcome to the show. This is Red Spotlight, people. This happens all the time. Alexis, do you care about this?
I mean, I'll watch it. Obviously.
It's interesting, right? Yeah, it's something to watch.
At most, I'd say intrigued.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree, and I've always agreed with this, that, well, at least since I saw Justice League in theaters, that Zack Snyder's version will probably be better.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, you made a film one way, and then at the freaking final minute, you're like, wait, what if we didn't though? And then try to change everything, and then it's just
if you think about it,
a piece of shit.
There is an interesting dichotomy in terms of like the change in direction between BVS and Justice League, as there is with The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker.
You bitch! I said this exact same thing.
So while I'm saying it now, so that means it's correct now. In the fact
I said it on podcast. I said it on the podcast.
Well, look.
God damn it.
Well, okay. If you said it first, all the credit to you. I'll just reiterate it in a better way that you could have. So BVS was the true vision of Zack Snyder, and then of course with the sequel, he left. He got somebody else, Joss Whedon, to like pepper it in and change it completely. And nobody liked Justice League from. I mean, it was okay, but no one cared about it. Really.
I literally just told Peter I cannot remember. I cannot tell you what happened.
Isn't that fucking depressing that there was a Justice League movie that came out and no one remembers it?
That's crazy. Justice League. And it's just nothing. That's what's crazy to me.
It's nothing. So
it's not even like bad interesting. It's just nothing. BVS, I remember BVS.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I still can't really tell you what happens, but I remember some.
The plot is just fucking nonsense, so it's hard to pinpoint.
It's all over
but I
the
remember
place.
Shit here and there. Yeah.
I remember that movie. And I remember what it was like watching that movie and all the conversation that it sparked after. Justice League was a blip. It came and it went.
Nothing.
And it was in between what? Thor Ragnarok, Coco, and The Last Jedi. So it kind of...
Oh my god, it was?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I agree with you because, I said it earlier. The Last Jedi, it's like, it's really interesting and it sparked conversation and it got people really angry, but a lot of people really liked it. And then they just sort of freaked out and tried to completely go back with the third film.
Peter, didn't you make that comparison before Rise of Skywalker was even released?
Maybe.
I think you talked about how Last Jedi, that you felt like it was BVS, but the opposite when the aftermath of that movie.
Yeah. It's the opposite, just in the fact that most people, and maybe I'm wrong for saying most people, but like it seemed as if general audiences and critics really didn't give a fuck about BVS, but like the core fandom loved it. Whereas with The Last Jedi, it seemed like the general audience and critics seemed to like it. Whereas the core fandom was like, you know, burn the witch at the stake kind of thing. And then even though the blowback was from different people, it still resulted in the studio doing the same shit, which is like, I don't know, just try and predict exactly what they want.
Let's
and
just
then
be
give
as
it to
safe
them.
as possible.
Don't take any risk. Just give them exactly what you think they want for this next one, which is the third one, technically, for both. And then it's just a piece of crap, and no one's happy. And it's also forgettable. Like, I don't know who walked away happy with The Rise of Skywalker. I don't know who walked away happy with Justice League.
Chris Terrio.
Everyone's just kind of...
He wrote it.
And then both had Chris Terrio. Yeah. And it's like, is he
terrible.
shit? Is he cursed? The world may never know.
It's him.
Oh, damn. I mean, he did say some real dumb shit.
And we'll get to that.
God.
We'll get to that at the end of the show,
no.
what he said about the making of that movie. I'm interested though in the Snyder Cut, and we'll see what happens. I think it's great fanfare to get people amped up for HBO Max. I'm really looking forward to that streaming service. I think it offers the variety that Disney Plus sorely needs. It offers the programming that Disney Plus sorely needs, and so I think it's definitely worth the upcharge to get HBO Max in that area.
Can we talk about how Disney Plus is desperate?
We're gonna get to that right now. So Disney Plus made 2 announcements, I think, in the last few days, one of which made Alexis break down in tears. But, you know, she's a Hamilton person. I've never listened to the music. I've never watched anything. I generally enjoy Lin-Manuel Miranda, but I can't say that I've been crazy about it, but I know that it's an international phenomenon and is one of the biggest things basically ever. They purchased this concert or movie version of it. I'm not sure what combo it is. I think it's the taped Broadway of the original cast. They purchased this version for $75 million, and it was intended for a theatrical release in October of 2021. While away, I don't know, reasons. Disney, you know how they are sometimes. But since they literally have nothing else, they announced that Hamilton will be dropping July 3rd this year in time for the 4th of July weekend. And then on top of that...
year early, isn't it?
Right, over a year early. And then also Taylor Swift is offering one of her concerts of her recent album for a limited time only on Disney+. That's it. You want to ask what else is currently airing on Disney+? There's Prop Culture, which I've heard good things about. Again, the documentary series are pretty good, but that's not what draws attention. There's also the Disney Gallery Mandalorian show, which I find to be...
Disney would have most of their program just sucking themselves off.
Exactly. That's another issue. The Gallery Mandalorian show, which I believe Kyle enjoyed.
Sorry, Moreno's face is
I've
funny.
enjoyed... What happened to her? Oh, I think your face froze for a while. She was in shock. The series is enjoyable at times, but ultimately as empty as the actual Mandalorian series because there's scarce things to talk about. There was literally an entire episode of the Mandalorian documentary series where the Mandalorian was mentioned 0 times.
I only saw the first episode.
The second episode, they didn't mention it at all. It was just about, isn't Star Wars great?
Well, I mean, it's like, there's only so much you can talk about. Like, it was 8 episodes. Most of it was shot in one room. Like, Wow.
So yes,
Moreno, are you there?
Alexis. So Hamilton, tell us how excited you are.
Oh my god. Okay, for someone who cannot afford to go watch the show and has loved the show for years, I am so excited.
How do you love the show if you've never seen it?
Because the music is great.
So she's seen it in her head.
Yeah, no, there's like footage, illegal footage on YouTube, so that's how I watch it. But no, I love it so much.
Are you gonna demand
so
the Lin-Manuel Miranda cut?
Yeah, I don't know. I love it. I'm so excited.
Well, considering how much
so
everybody raves about it, I'm actually grateful that I get to actually see what the hype is all about, because holy crap, do people swear by this thing. It must be great. It really must be great. And I'll catch it. And I'll tell you, I mean, for all the hype and everything, I'll catch it. And I think it's a big get for Disney Plus. But it also just speaks to, oh my God, they got nothing else. They got nothing else.
Maybe if they actually greenlit some shit. And like
and not like halt production because of creative issues and like differences with what it fits in the Disney brand and all that keeps getting in the way.
If you're gonna
the guy for Disney Plus is leaving, so maybe.
So tell us about that, because that was interesting, because there was a recent shakeup.
I don't know. I just read the picture.
Josh D'Amaro is taking over the parks, and we'll discuss that more in Fantasy Fair. But so this is the guy that was working on Disney Plus, and he left the company?
He's leaving to head up TikTok. He ditched Disney Plus for TikTok. How embarrassing for Disney.
I mean, if it's like the guy that's been there from the beginning,
But let's be real here.
I hope.
Let's be real here, though.
I mean, I don't know if this doesn't sound bad. I kind of hope they maybe get somebody better.
Well, here's my issue. I think it'd be hard pressed to blame all of the issues with Disney Plus on him, because clearly what we are seeing transpire with the many, I'll just call it dramas, that have come out of the shows that were originally greenlit and then put into production, all of it seems to come from one place, and that is being unable to reconcile the material with the Disney brand, which is why Love, Victor was pushed to Hulu, and which is why Lizzie McGuire was ultimately shut down, because it was too mature for Disney.
Okay, listen to this. Meyer leaving does not come as a surprise in the entertainment world. He was passed over for the CEO of Disney when Bob Iger stepped down out of the blue in February. Wall Street and Hollywood thought that Meyer was the logical replacement for Iger. The company decided to go with Bob Chapek as a new CEO. So he was butthurt.
Yeah.
He was I'd like to see that as a headline.
But still, like, nobody really is in love with Bob Chapek. I mean, the only thing that I can guess as to why
investors are. That's all that matters. Well,
that's what I mean. They don't really love him. They just like that he's a cheapskate. But they're not in love with him.
That's everything to them, though.
It's a big part of it, but they really believed in Bob Iger.
Well, yeah, because he's made them money.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You think they give a shit what Bob does with the fucking company? As long as they're getting their money.
No, I'm not saying that
care.
at all. I agree with what you're saying. I mean, Bob Chapek, though, hasn't proved to have made a profit. All he can do is save a buck. But that's far from, like, creating billions in profit.
Yeah.
That's the difference. And we'll see how that plays out, considering where we are right now. But as far as, like, Disney Plus is concerned, we've talked about this, I don't know, thousands of times. And the situation that they've caught themselves in is entirely of their own making. And the continual scrutiny that they're going to get is because of their inability to get over this obsession of the brand. And because Peter and Alexis, I'm going to ask you guys while I'm reading off this thing here to think about ideas for shorts or shows or movies that would be exciting to the fan base of Disney that could be on Disney Plus right now but aren't. Because I just did this thought bubble of things that I know that are currently out there in the ether, or things that could have happened, considering all of the different properties that they own. Because the sad reality is HBO Max will have the variety, but it's not as if Disney doesn't have that too. Is that they choose not to include it on their streaming service. They have ownership of other things like ESPN, ABC, 20th Century, Hulu, FX. All of that stuff is also under their umbrella, but it's just nowhere to be seen, and it's not being utilized. And I think what we're seeing with HBO Max, I think shows the potential of what Disney could do with their streaming service.
By the way, Peter Siretta is teasing a Star Wars scoop for tomorrow. Yeah.
Is it Darth Maul? Because we have
maybe
we've talked about that right now.
You want to beat him to the punch? Let's go.
Well, we'll talk about those rumors, and we might have more to talk about tomorrow. But I'm just going to go ahead and start off with I literally have a list of 12.
Well, before you start, like, my thing is,
shut up.
It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating that they're greenlighting all of these projects, like, now. Right. When they had all the time to do it before they launched. When was Disney Plus announced? I don't get it.
This was announced in 2017, right? When Disney Plus.
And they were dragging their feet, and then with like creating content and going like, well, no, maybe not this. Maybe this doesn't fit with the brand. And then boom, COVID hits, and they got nothing. And they're like, fuck, we need content. And they have like nothing in the backlogs that they could just like throw out there and release.
That's what I mean. Like, why did they wait till now to start okaying all of these things? Like, that's what I don't understand.
I think we share your frustration.
And they can't film anything.
They can't film anything. Not only is there nothing in production, but projects like Falcon and Winter Soldier and Scarlet and WandaVision were put on hold because all of this happened in the middle of the filming. So there's nothing Marvel coming anytime soon because of all that's happened. And the frustration that Alexis has is when we all share is this idea was conceived years ago. And the company is acting all of a sudden as if they've been caught with their pants down. And they didn't see it coming. When we've been talking about this for how long? Peter talked about it years up. It's like the problem with Disney Plus, he called it the day it was announced years ago. The problem problem with this streamer is their inability to reconcile with the brand is going to get in the way of production and variety of programming. And that's already happened.
You know what's funny though?
They canceled Lizzie McGuire.
My God. You don't know. I don't know if you've been listening to the recent podcast, but I have been going like, what the fuck is wrong with you? That Lizzie McGuire show was a dunk, like a slam dunk.
Yeah.
So many people would have watched the hell out of that shit.
That was like more talked about than like anything else.
That would have been their Fuller House. How big that would have been.
Oh my God.
It would have been, people would have gone crazy for it. Like, the fact that they didn't go through with it, they're so stupid. I'm sorry, they're stupid. They're really stupid. Funnily enough though, the one aspect of Disney Plus that's saving them is the thing that everyone swears is like the worst ever part of Disney, which is Lucasfilm. And Lucasfilm is single-handedly fucking saving Disney Plus.
They're carrying it.
They're carrying it on its back right now. Like, they really are. Like, I'll be real. I don't want, like, an Obi-Wan show or a Rogue One show. But honest to God, I'd be more inclined to watch that than the Falcon show.
And honestly, a lot of the things that I'm going to list are not driven by what I want. they're driven by what they could do. It's not about like what I would like to see. It's more about the properties that they have at their disposal are honestly limitless. The different characters they have and what they could do.
I have an idea for a show right now, but I'll let you go and then you
Well, I have a lot of different things here. It involves...
I guarantee you won't have mine, bitch.
Okay. But it involves a combination of like... It's just me going off for a couple of minutes, thinking about what they could do.
Pitchmaster Alexis, let's go.
Yeah, let's do it. First and foremost, why would you bring back the Clone Wars for only 12 episodes and last 12 weeks when they had so many stories left on the floor? First thing, you could...
Because they didn't know...
Well, you see, now what's happened, they're left without programming. They could have easily have doubled the number of episodes and doubled the number of traffic coming to Disney Plus for the Clone Wars.
Yeah, they could. We still probably wouldn't have been at the end of the season yet. I will say, in their defense,
it's expensive.
I feel like maybe that was Dave's decision.
It may have been a mutual decision from but I'm pretty sure Disney was like, you only get 12 here because the animation is expensive. I think it's a lot of money, but I would think it'd be well worth it considering how dry the well is right now, and how starved they are for content. Like for this example, I mentioned this show at the top of the episode. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is about to finish their run, right? They have 13 episodes that are left. Why would you let that air on ABC when you could just drop them on a weekly basis, mind you, on Disney Plus if you need fucking content? And from what I understand, that show is actually very popular on Disney Plus because they have it on Disney Plus anywhere but America.
Do you think maybe ABC would get pissed off if they're like,
yeah, but
yoink?
Daddy Disney, remember what happened a few years ago when Daddy Disney saved them from cancellation? This particular show? ABC wanted it to access this. It was too expensive from what they...
I honestly think they just don't think the show is popular enough to like push for it.
Well, look at Clone Wars. They probably underestimated how popular that was too, and look what happened.
They're really dumb.
Because look at what happened.
Sorry.
I told you.
I feel bad saying this because it's like,
you really,
obviously this job
I
is
don't
hard.
feel bad because it's coming at these particular series. I can tell you from what a lot of the testing in the Netherlands and other places around the world, when Disney Plus was being tested, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Clone Wars were the two most popular series that were being binge watched. I wonder why. Americans don't want to admit that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is popular. I get it, but it is popular everywhere else but America, it seems like. But anyway, the thing is here is content. Do something. And the third thing is the Ghost Rider show that was going to be on Hulu. It was there. Production was about to happen. They're about to film. The scripts were written. You had Gabriel Luna, who everybody loved as that character. And you just throw it away when you need content right now? Everybody loves Ghost Rider.
S.H.I.E.L.D. fans do, and we all know S.H.I.E.L.D. fans aren't real people, so
that's right.
They don't count.
That's right. They're lizard people at most. 4, we mentioned it already. Love Victor. And this list of things is me breaking this whole mold of a Disney brand. So some things do fit into the brand, but other things won't. And I just feel that's just a necessity to survive in the streaming wars. So Love Victor, I think, would have also been a good show, especially for LGBTQ people. As well as number 5, Lizzie McGuire. Slam dunk, as Peter said. Number 6. Bring back the final season of Agent Carter. Okay,
this is like... I don't understand what they're trying to do.
Nobody does.
I'm pretty sure... No, I'm pretty sure you guys haven't seen it, but that show, the future president one...
The Diary of the Future President.
The son is gay. The mom's best friend is gay.
There's that other show called the High School Musical series. It features gay characters, like openly gay.
I don't know what they're trying to.
Well, Love Victor
not show
has an explicit, fully nude sex scene.
I don't think that's true.
Oh,
I don't think that's true. I think you just made that fucking up. No, I think it's because it mentions sex.
But so does...
that's a no-no word.
Hocus Pocus? That was back in the night. That was different Disney.
I don't... Dude, they have
See,
no clue what
this is what I've been complaining about. Like, they are all over the place with, like, their standards and their censorship. Because they have movies that are, like, pretty explicit and pretty fucking violent. But then they spend money to CGI a light butt shot out of fucking Splash. Like, the quickest of butt shots needs to be completely CGI'd over. They removed the fucking symbol off of Uncle Grinkle, I forgot his fucking name, from
Gravity Falls.
Gravity Falls. But they didn't even like go through with it. I think it's only like half the season that they did that shit. And it's like, what are you doing?
They don't know what they want.
Have, like,
there's countless examples. They changed the aspect ratio of Simpsons and they changed it back. They were going to remove parts of Dumbo and then they kept them in there. They don't know what to do.
They have no idea just like what their standards should be. And it's so weird. Just be like, I think it's pretty obvious. PG-13. We'll go as high as PG-13. If it's not, if it wouldn't be in a PG-13 movie, like, okay.
Well, how is HBO Max going to handle it? They're going to have kid-friendly content in there as well. Looney Tunes and Elmo.
Yeah, but I think the difference is, like Netflix, right? It's like, this is the adult section and this is the kids section. Disney wants to say, it's the family. Like, anything on here you could watch as a family. I think that's kind of the point, right?
Yeah.
And that's fine. Then just go, okay, all content is PG-13. And guess what? Butts are okay. You didn't CGI the butt shot of the Hulk in Thor Ragnarok. You know, like, why are you CGIing out this other butt?
They didn't take out the butt shot in George of the Jungle.
Yeah, all butts are equal, guys. Come on. This is 2020. Like, ridiculous. Ridiculous. I really think, but I think that's a symptom of a much larger fact that they don't have a clear direction of where they want to take the streaming service.
No.
You could tell they're still throwing darts at a dartboard and hoping shit sticks. And like, should we go this way or that way? Like, what is the identity of Disney
The only
Plus?
surefire thing they got is Star Wars.
Yeah, like all I know for sure is like, okay, Star Wars, and it's like, sure, you're gonna have Marvel, Pixar, and all that, but guess what? You ain't releasing any of that shit right now. And it's
anytime
like,
soon.
Or like, if you're gonna do that, okay, is all your content gonna be like Pixar shows or Marvel shows or Disney shows and Star Wars shows and maybe exclusive movies? Like, is that it? Are you going to exclusive kids, or are you gonna have some other shit? I really, if you're going to do that, then you're not going to reach as many people as you would want, because you can only make so much of that content at a time, obviously, because that costs a shit ton of money. You need to expand. And it, like, Lizzie McGuire, it's perfect. It's like a perfect expansion, because it'll probably be like PG-13-ish, you know, slightly more adult, but it reaches a demographic that maybe doesn't want to see a Marvel movie or a Star Wars show, you know? Yeah, I don't know.
Well,
that's the one that got away.
There's a lot more things on this list, guys. Number 6,
okay, go.
The final season of Agent Carter. Fans are still asking for it.
Never.
So
never.
Number 7, bring back Girl Meets World and age it up like Lizzie McGuire. That's another one of those that could work really well. Number 8, do an animated series on The Incredibles. You already got a pilot in Incredibles 2.
Is Boy Meets World on Disney Plus?
Yeah.
Oh,
okay,
boy.
that show was very adult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, very adult.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck? Okay.
Number 9, do a Mickey and Friends animated series, or at least more Mickey and Friends cartoons, like what they're doing with Looney Tunes on HBO.
Oh my god. I think I've been shouting for years that
they have the Mickey shorts.
That's not enough. I want a series. I want
more.
more.
I love those.
That's not nearly enough.
Look, fine, they're doing that, but they should be doing more with Mickey Mouse, I feel. They can do a lot more nowadays, like an actual animated series based on Mickey Mouse and his friends. Pick a storyline. Do something.
Mickey Mouse Clubhouse.
Number 10. Number 10 and 11 animated series for Wreck-It Ralph and Zootopia. Both of those have amazing worlds. Make great TV shows. Do it. I'm not saying I want them. I'm saying you can do it. And it could be easy to do. Number 12, the same treatment with Girl Meets World and Lizzie McGuire. There's a show called Raven's Home, that's a Raven sequel series. Bring that, age it up, make it more adult. It's easy. If once you break the shackles, you can do much more with it. And you have a litany of things that you have at your disposal. Number 13, do a reboot of Glee. Make it Disney friendly if you want or whatever. That will have a lot of attention.
High School Musical.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
No, make it more adult. That's what I mean. High School Musical.
Can I throw one out real quick?
Can I?
High School Musical is literally Glee. Like
it basically was.
They have the same character. It's literally the same thing.
Yeah.
Fine. Go ahead. Shoot it down. Go ahead, Peter.
New Halloween Town movie.
Yeah.
I mean, the movies are easy. National Treasure 3, Princess Diaries 3. I mean, come on.
National Treasure, they're doing a series.
That's not the same. I wanted the movie.
It's not the same. I wanted the movie.
And again, they have a lot of the Fox. They can do a sequel series to New Girl. Don't ask about the creative stuff. I'm saying they could, and it'll be successful and popular. Revive the Muppets show that was canceled on ABC.
Or just any Muppet show.
Bring back Futurama. It'll have a lot. And then there was a show that.
Ooh, I don't know. Futurama might be a little too much for Disney Plus.
I'm in this version. I'm breaking the shackles entirely, and you separating it. So.
Ooh.
I don't give.
X-rated Muppets.
I don't care.
All right.
Netflix cancels a show called One Day at a Time, and it was picked up by somebody else. That was a really popular adult family show that Disney could have easily captured for Disney Plus. I don't know why they let that go. That would have been great. There was another show that I think starred Matt Lanter on NBC called Timeless. It was like this, procedural time travel show.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the one with Matt Lanter?
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah. Disney could have easily, picked up. NBC canceled it, pick up the rights, bring it over. It's that easy.
Young.
And on time travel, HBO, and I know this is a big property all over the world, but America, because it's British, they really could have acquired all of Doctor Who. And that's like years worth of content.
Guess who did?
HBO Max. That's what I just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Like they beat them to the punch. And Doctor Who not only has there's 27 seasons of the original series. There's 12 seasons, which they could have aired the new season on Disney Plus in the beginning of this year, but they missed that opportunity. They have a whole bunch of spin-off shows. You see?
They had 10 Things I Hate About You on Disney Plus.
Oh, me?
That's fucking adult.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
That's pretty adult oriented.
I mentioned this before. Revivals of Firefly. That would be a big show, a big headlining show. A sequel series to Buffy the Vampire Slayer. You already have Joss Whedon. Just bring him back and do this crap. Do the Inhumans, but with an actual budget. I know
$25 this time.
I know that ship sailed, but if you had them, yeah, that would Also, this is number 23. Put the entire fucking library of Disney already. Stop dropping different nuggets every now and then. Just put the whole thing on there. Put the whole library and keep it there. Stop taking things out.
We want Brandy and Mr. Whisker.
It's not on there?
No.
Why?
It's really annoying the shit that isn't on there. And it's
we want Dave the Barbarian.
That
they don't
shit
have
should
Dave
be
the Barbarian?
there.
Everything that's ever been Disney should be there. I'm fucking sorry. It's not like they have a deep catalog right now. By the way, have you seen the to watch on your Disney Plus account?
I haven't been on there in a while. I've been
Okay.
watching other stuff.
I added some stuff for your watch list that you should check out.
Okay.
To me, the biggest change that I would add to Disney Plus, and amongst all these ideas of the shows, and yes, this would break the shackles of whatever the brand or the rating or whatever, but I feel that this would, reach the capacity of Disney Plus at its full potential. And this would incorporate completely dismantling Hulu and ESPN Plus and incorporating those things into Disney Plus to make it a massive streamer. Because then you would have the entire catalog and library and the variety at your disposal all in one streaming service. What I would do is add a couple of more icons to the interface. You know how in the interface of Disney Plus you have Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, National Geographic. Add another page, 20th Century. Put the entire library of 20th Century Fox film on Disney Plus. Why isn't that on there? That's a lot of films, legendary pictures. Put them on there. Literally. It's a no-brainer. Put the TV shows there as well from all of 20th Century Fox that you've acquired.
It's not like they're all on Hulu either.
Add an icon for ABC and all the stuff that's on there, or an FX and ESPN for all of the shows. They have that Last Dance documentary that's going on right now. That could be a big thing also happening on Disney Plus. I mean, just think about all the different things that they have at their disposal and they don't even utilize. So, ideas, guys.
Okay, real quick. Do you think my hair is like vampire hair?
Yes, you look very much like that guy from What We Do in the Shadows.
Thank you.
That's what you wanted to hear? Okay.
That's exactly what I wanted to hear.
Great. Yeah.
Okay. Next point. I have an idea for a show. This is a property I always bring up because I like it. And Disney does nothing with it the way they do nothing with... Fuck you. Yes, Tron. Live action Tron show.
You know the problem with that?
What?
I was going to say they could probably try and do a budgeted live action movie for Disney Plus, but I can't imagine they wouldn't ask anybody but J.J. Abrams to direct that.
Are you sure? He's over with HBO now.
I mean,
I don't think they would get him for
direct.
No.
His production
He
company
would be perfect because of how much blue he uses for his movie.
But he tried to change it up and put light blue.
Oh my god.
No, and you know why I think it would work? Specifically because, well, real quick, I'm gonna find an avenue to make you guys watch it if you haven't watched it. I haven't figured it out
Tron?
yet. The animated series.
The animated series?
Exactly. I haven't watched it in a long time. I'm gonna rewatch it, and if it's as good as I remember, I'm gonna find a way to force you guys to watch it. But I remember at the time, to me it was like on the same level as Clone Wars, and I really liked it. But then like it only got one season, and then soon after, you know, Disney started buying up Marvel and Star Wars, and they're like, bye bye Tron. Tron was supposed to be their thing.
I remember,
to bring boys in. Like, because they were failing with the boy demographic. That's why they bought Marvel and Star Wars and stuff. And now I think they've kind of gone too far, and now they're kind of failing the girl demographic a little bit. Although I don't know what the numbers look like. But I think a Tron show could work, specifically looking at the technology of the Mandalorian, right?
Yeah.
Utilizing that technology, I think it would work perfectly.
Yeah.
You just get a couple actors in blue suits, put them in that circle CGI thing, and then, yeah, I think it would work. And I think, I don't know. I want to see it. That's just what I want. And I think, yeah, at some point you need to branch beyond the big four.
Yeah.
Or is it 5?
Whichever.
The specifically Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, and the animated Disney movies, right? Like, you need to branch beyond that because people will get bored. Like, you can't just have just content specifically from that over and over and over and over again. And I think Tron is a good avenue to bring something else in. That was all I had. I think if I had time to think about shit.
Oh, maybe. I think we can use this unless Moreno, you had any ideas or any other thoughts on this?
It's not. I mean, you guys basically said, or you, Alexis, said like most of them. There's just like so many. it kind of goes back to like what I said before. Like they are now greenlighting things that they should have done beforehand, like the Percy Jackson show. Like, why wasn't that already being made? Like,
that should have been one of their first things.
Yeah,
but that
the Kingdom Keeper show, that was already on their list, but they said no. Like,
all those kids books that they had bought up to make shitty live action movies. Instead, make less shitty television shows on Disney Plus.
Yeah, like the Kingdom Keepers one. What's his name? Kevin. Jay and Silent Bob.
Kevin Smith.
Kevin Smith.
Mm-hmm.
He had pitched the show, and they greenlit it. Whatever. They went with it. Like. It got to the point where, like, he, like, knew about Mandalorian. He knew about all the shows that they were making. They were, like, ready to, like, start filming and everything. And then they were like, no, we're gonna stop. Like, why? I don't get it.
It seems like they did that 100 times.
The Black Cauldron is based on books. Why is that not being made? They bought the book series. Like, they had the book series when they made the Black Cauldron, but then they like sold it or something, and then they got it back like a few years ago. Why is that not being made? I don't get it.
You know, I we talked about this earlier before. We should talk about this now. Unless you had a thought, Peter, you wanted to finish?
Well, I know this had already been thrown out, but I really want just a really good animated Mickey show. With fucking all the classic characters. And I mean classic, like fucking Horace and Oswald. And, you know, bring them all in.
A Roger Rabbit show.
Bring Roger Rabbit in as well.
Yeah, that might be tough. But it's like, I don't know. There's just so many obvious choices.
Right.
And then it's like...
Easy.
And then you see the shit that's greenlit. It's like, we're doing a cooking show that's Marvel themed. Or like shit like that. And it's like...
Well, look at the programming they have right now. So we got Mandalorian, the Gallery Mandalorian documentary series. The Clone Wars is already over. There was the Imagineering story, Prop Culture, again, mainly documentary stuff. There was the World According to Jeff Goldblum or whatever that was. There's a cooking show, right? The Diary of Madam President, the High School Musical, the musical series. Forky Asks a Question, which I'm a big fan of. That's actually pretty insane, and I love it. That's it. Mandalorian never mentioned it, but
I feel like there was so many shows where it was like, this celebrity goes around and they talk about their favorite Star Wars or their favorite Disney shit.
There's a lot of those,
and it's like
you're circling the wagon. Really, come on, just move on to something else. I do think though, if you're like Prop Culture and Imagineering story are some of the best stuff if you're like a Disney Parks fan or Disney Movies fan. So that's good content, but you need more than that, which is why we bring all this up. And even further, and this is why I mentioned, breaking the shackles, and we mentioned this picture earlier. Drop fucking New Mutants on there. Just do it already. That would have so much traffic on there. Come on.
I see some people going like, I hope New Mutants doesn't go to digital and it gets its theatrical release, just as sort of like a David and Goliath thing. It got pushed down so many times, and that movie will have its moment in the sun. The funny thing is,
the movie got a new release date. They got another theatrical release date. They moved it to August, and I'm thinking to myself, the only way New Mutants is going to get like any kind of traction or hype online, I feel, is if you just do straight to VOD or put it on Disney Plus. Because I'll tell you something, maybe it would have been successful before the Disney regime came in, but ever since, and all of the years that have happened, I never understood why Disney was so insistent on giving this a theatrical release. It's not gonna do well at all. It never was. And then with COVID-19, what's the point?
People aren't gonna risk their lives to see New Mutants. They might risk their lives to see Black Widow,
Mulan,
or Tenet, or Mulan, but ain't no one risking their life to see fucking New Mutants. And what sucks is all those movies, if they do get released, it'll probably hurt their box office to begin with. So like I don't see a scenario in which New Mutants makes any kind of money.
You're only losing.
Whereas if you release it right now, it'll still lose money, but it'll probably in the long run make more money than it would have.
Wouldn't it be like a profit for them though? Because
they wouldn't share the earnings. Money in it. They wouldn't share the earnings with the exhibitors if they just put it on VOD.
I don't know if it would be a profit.
Saying they're not the ones who made the movie.
But they bought Fox, and that wasn't cheap.
They absorbed that. So I mean, what Peter is saying is, regardless, at some point, someone spent a whole bunch of money to make the movie. Mm-hmm. No matter what happens in box office, or maybe even in best case in digital, it's not going to make that money back. It's just not. And so if it doesn't make that money back, it's not going to make a profit. But if they do VOD, they might be able to get some money back versus no money at all with theatrical, I feel. Because theatrical, the theaters get their cut of having that movie on there. So
the theaters get their cut, plus less people are going to risk going out to see it, especially this movie. Plus you can only fill up half the seats at a time because there's going to be, enforced social distancing. Like, plus a lot of places just won't be open. Maybe some will, others won't. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll get to movies right now, the theaters in a minute, and this might be leading into it. But with New Mutants, why it would also just be good to have it on Disney Plus is they can finally, and I'm not sure if they've already, I don't think they've done this yet. None of the X-Men Fox movies are on Disney Plus. The X-Men animated series is on there, but none of the X-Men Fox movies are on there.
The first X-Men movie is on HBO.
Get HBO Max today.
None of the X-Men movies. Of course, Deadpool won't be on there, and it seems like they've canceled Deadpool too. So, it's just depressing because they really, there's so much opportunity literally crawling around them, but they refuse because it's not the right one. So yeah. If they drop New Mutants, I think it would create a lot of fanfare. I think a lot of people would draw a lot of interest, and I think we all watch it immediately, I think, if it was there. So that's ultimately a mistake. So moving on before we get into Star Wars, movie theaters. As we mentioned before, Mulan and Tenet are still scheduled for July. We are currently in the middle of May. That's crazy to think about that. This last month has kind of flown by. In some ways it has, in some way it hasn't. But we're pretty much coming up on June. There are a lot of discussions being had about particularly Warner Brothers. And it's interesting they haven't released any information about how well or not Scoob did over the weekend on PVOD. Because Universal had that big dick energy with Trolls World Tour doing all this amazing success and fuck the theaters and everything. But Warner Brothers has not said anything about Scoob, which we'll see.
Maybe isn't that good.
It's not doing well. So with 10...
So many people... I follow a lot of animators, not Disney animators, just animators. And they all hate it.
It got very, very mixed review. I think I got 56 on Rotten Tomatoes, so it's very mixed.
Well, I'll be honest, it doesn't look like a Scooby-Doo movie.
It's not a Scooby-Doo movie. I saw the poster and then I saw a review this is actually a superhero movie, and I'm like, what?
It seems like they turned, the Scooby-Doo movie.
And they changed the voice actors.
That's it.
Oh, the fact that Scooby speaks in full sentences is an issue for me. and I know that's really dumb and childish, but it is.
We're
Like,
talking
he's
about
supposed to
It's
say,
not
"Roar,
dumb or
Roger."
childish.
He
It's
didn't
who
speak
he
with the R's.
is.
I don't know. I don't
So
like
yeah,
it.
it's getting a lot of hate. So it may not have done well, but kids need entertainment, so it might have done something. But they're not releasing it. They may still yet release something, but we haven't gotten anything yet as far as how well or not Scoob did. But more to the point with Warner Brothers, the next big movie they got is Christopher Nolan's Tenet. And his movies are a box office draw. So let's be clear about it. It's
Nolan is adamant this shit open on its release date.
Here's the thing. There are a lot of conversations being had right now from other outlets about what it is that WB needs to make a choice kind of like now, because they're only going to have 5 or 6 weeks to launch the marketing campaign to promote the movie for it to open in mid-July. At the same time, though, are we all thinking the same thing, that that's just not going to happen, right? Like, July is not in the cards at all for any movie, right? Theatrically.
I don't feel like it is. I mean, each day, each week, each month seems to have ended worse than the last. I don't understand how we'll go, but don't worry, next month it'll be okay enough to go to the movie theaters. Or even in a month and a half. Like, I just don't see it.
One of the things that is gone underappreciated is so many people are focusing about whether we have just a simple ability to go out and do these things like restaurants or theme parks or movie theaters, right? But no one is talking about this aspect. The depression is here. People are running out of money. People are scared of a virus. And on top of that, I told this to Kyle when we were talking about the regulations that will be put in check for Disney theme parks whenever they open here in the States. Why would you want to spend all that money for half of the experience? A lot of the entertainment is not going to be an option. They're not going to do fireworks with all those crowds clustered together. They're not going to have a parade with all of those crowds. You cannot do social distancing with all that entertainment happening. Why would you pay full price for getting half of the things on top of risking yourself and on top of wearing uncomfortable things like masks or all that kind of crap? Like, why would you do that to yourself and waste that money? And the same thing goes for, I think, maybe even a movie theater where it's like they'll only let in a certain number of people. You have to be seated at the number of restrictions that are going to be placed on these things. I don't understand how they would be enjoyable at that rate. They're not going to be like it was before this thing happened. So why are you so adamant on having half of what the experience was by paying the same kind of money? And by the way, did you see that headline this week where some restaurants are introducing a COVID-19 surcharge on your receipt for your meal?
They gotta do something, I guess.
I don't understand people. Like, you're literally asking to be ripped off and nickel and dimed for getting so much less than you would have otherwise. So I just can't imagine. Yeah, go ahead.
It's also like to the businesses that want to open, like it's not going to be the same. Like, more than half the people here are scared to go out. You're not going to get the same amount of business. So why do you want to open? I don't know.
To me, I could understand if it's like cases are in a downward trend.
They somewhat are, aren't they? There was some that they've slowed. They're not downward, I guess I could say. They're not. It's not like going back the other way, but there has been a slowing, like a slight slowing of it, right?
Where are you reading that?
I'm not saying cases are going down. The rate of which
Where
cases
are you reading the slowing?
The rate in which cases are increasing is not going as fast as it used to be, because we used to have 20,000. I'm just looking at the numbers of people that are dying and getting infected, right?
And they're still going up.
They're still going up. I'm not disagreeing with you, dude. I'm just listening that the number of deaths that occurred in the previous week were half of what they were the previous week.
Is that true?
20,000 people died like 2 weeks ago, and then we only went from 80,000 to 90,000 in the last 7 days.
I'd have to look at numbers.
Okay, so here we have Peter completely disregarding what I'm saying. As if I'm fake news. That's literally what's happening here. I said this at the top of the show. I'm literally just doing basic arithmetic, looking at the number of deaths that have happened. I'm not making the case that things are okay or that they're going down. Things are still
to hear from
going.
the experts.
Things are still going up. So no, there's no data out there that suggests that we're in a good place. If that was, God damn it, Peter, why do you always have to like completely like smear the things that I'm saying? You're making me feel as if I'm like saying like fake news. I'm not saying things are good. I'm just saying that there was some whatever.
Okay, Breitbart.
Anyways.
Yeah, what was the point you were going to go with, Peter? Before you derail this entire thing?
How did I derail? I just pointed out a few small facts. My point being, I could have understood if things were getting better.
But they're not.
No data currently suggests that things are getting better. Yes. So, people might be more inclined if they thought, well, things are getting better, maybe I'll be safe. But things are just getting worse and worse and worse. So why would you feel safe even if everything opened up? Yeah, I just don't think it works.
So I guess the question goes to both of you is, because we had this question about a month ago and then 2 months ago when all this thing started, is when is this thing going to come back? When are theaters going to come back?
Hopefully 2021.
I am going to say at the rate things are going, not with numbers or anything like that, but just the country in general and stupid people. July.
You think July?
Because we're already opening shit up. For what reason, I don't know. But I think it's going to be open. They're going to be open by then. Nothing is going to be playing, but I don't know.
So you're saying that you're kind of agreeing with Peter's mentality that the economy is already beginning to reopen. And regardless of dramatic spikes in the death toll, it's not going to make a difference and they're going to be open regardless. That being said, LA is going to be closed through July, as well as New York. And those are two major markets for movie theaters. If that remains to be the case, that's going to dramatically affect a lot of big pictures like Tenet or Wonder Woman or Mulan. So,
see, that's the thing. I do think we're going to open up and then we're not going to go back. But certain things won't be open because they rely on people themselves choosing to go to them, like movie theaters, right? Or like Disneyland, or big sporting events. It just, they can try to open, but it just ultimately might not be worth it financially. But I'm talking like just regular everyday jobs. Yeah, they're gonna force you to fucking go back to work. Yeah, that's kind of more what I'm talking about when they say they're gonna open up and they're gonna say, too bad, so sad, we're already open. We just need to keep pushing forward, and then, hey, immunity, guys. If enough of you die, everything will be okay.
Okay, Peter, I guess the question here goes, because like what I think is going to happen is the second wave is already happening here because of this reopening decision all over the country, first and foremost. The original second wave, but will be now, in fact, a third wave that was always coming, is in the dead of winter or in the fall of coronavirus, where everybody is saying it's going to hit much, much, much harder than it already has, to the point that we are right now. If that is true, the results will be nothing but catastrophic. I mean, we talked about this in the context of having a national election, but that doesn't say nothing about anything other of the industries or the faculties that are open. Like, I can't imagine if things are that catastrophic that we're just going to keep things going on as is. It'll be much worse than it already has.
In a lot of projections, those second or third waves can be worse than the initial.
Much worse.
Which is pretty fucking scary.
So I differ on it. I don't think we're going to see movies this year.
I mean,
I think we're
honest
done.
to God, it would help a lot if we didn't have a Trump administration.
Yeah. But we do.
Guys out there that are old enough to vote, wink wink, it would help a lot if we didn't have a Trump administration.
Because my thinking is, when November happens, everything is going to shut down again, because that's when things are going to get horrible, beyond horrible. And if that's the case, well, there goes the movies too. Like, to me, my expectation on when we can maybe go on a downward trajectory, I don't expect anything until January 2021. The soonest.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I see January being like us starting to turn
Right.
the numbers,
Mm-hmm.
but as things opening and business continuing,
that's just
July,
getting in
I
the
think.
way. It's getting in the way, and it's destroying all the
know,
progress. I know that's what you're
but-
saying, yeah. But
yeah, but like people here are stupid.
They
Is
are.
what I'm
They
trying
really
to say.
are.
Like, they do not care about anybody but
well, that's
themselves.
two different things.
Things are
Not
going to
only
be
are they
open
stupid,
by July.
they just don't care about anybody else but themselves.
My mall here, stores are open that don't need to be opened. By July, everything is going to be open.
And you know what?
The latest, August. And I'm not saying it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I want it to happen. I'm saying people here are stupid, so it's going to happen.
Well, and that's the point. Is at one point we could have seen August, maybe late July, be a realistic time where we could go back to normalcy, or the slightest bit of normalcy. But because of all of the protests and the conservatives and the fights over masks, there have been people who have been chopped up or beaten up at Targets or at places of private business because of people refusing to wear masks. There have been armed protesters showing up at capitals around the country. Because of that, that is why I'm saying January. We've been fucked for the rest of the year because of this unexpected middle wave in between the much worse wave coming in the fall, which leads me to think that I don't think we're going to get movie theaters back. Not until next year.
Yeah, I'm doubtful of this year.
So, it's depressing. It really is. But I mean, and again, I don't want that to happen. I want to go back to work. I want things to come back to normal. But the very people who want things to get back to normal are causing this to be so much worse. Now, on a little bit of a flip side, there was some promising results from a trial I read earlier today about a vaccine. But again, don't expect a vaccine until next year. The soonest. Hopefully we can get some treatment sometime soon. But if we're right now in the middle of May and we're having an argument about whether or not anti-malaria drugs work to fight the virus, or if masks are if it infringes on people's freedom to wear a mask. There was some results. There was some comments I was looking at on the Disney Parks blog about it's not magical at Disney if I have to wear a mask. If that's where we're at right now, forget it.
God, there's so many people that are just like, my freedom. You can't make me wear a mask. This is fascism. Oh, God. I can't. No, never mind.
All right, so with that put to bed, let's get to Star Wars. The Mandalorian.
Dun, 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 dun.
Which we discussed at great length, I think, in last week's episode, which was a massive, almost 4-hour podcast with me and Peter talking about Star Wars.
Did you listen to it, Moreno?
I did not.
Evidently,
Not
Kyle did, which I was impressed. He never really listens, but he did there.
He got mad.
He got mad?
He got mad?
Well, he had opinions. That
He told me he wanted to voice him. But unfortunately,
Yes.
Kyle Lira is a essential worker, and when he's not here, he's working.
He's making that pizza pie.
No, he's told me that he has the same people come in every day.
That
That's
makes me
not-
so angry. Learn how to cook,
When
you dumb motherfuckers.
The people that he counted that would go in, that's not.
Yeah, it's gotten so bad that
Make
he's
your own
counting.
sandwich. Oh my god.
Make your own fucking sandwich.
Ridiculous. How incapable of just life are you? That, you would die without Domino's being open. I don't know. Anyways, go on.
Also, that's just a heart attack waiting to happen.
Yeah, that's pretty unhealthy.
I could eat pizza all day, every day, but at some point you gotta be
That's a lot of bread and
maybe
a
not
lot of
today.
sauce. And a lot of cheese.
Yeah, that's not good in any kind of scenario. But with this Mandalorian thing, we did a whole conversation last time, and we were talking about the problems. And I also do think, Moreno, you were in one of those discussions from I think a month back when we were discussing Mandalorian, when I was talking about how I had finished season 1. Before we get to the whole casting thing, I think I've really zeroed in the issue with the series, and I've been watching a lot of reviews to really get as many kind of points of view as possible about the series. I think a fundamental flaw of the series is that it is episodic and not serialized. Serialized is when you have these overarching season storylines, like let's say in a Game of Thrones, for example, or in a Walking Dead. Episodic television is where mostly every single episode is isolated. It's a bottle episode, and then there's not really much of a clear overarching theme or mission or what have you for the series. Now, a lot of people actually liked that it was episodic. My issue wasn't so much that it was episodic. I think that brings down the fact that this show is week to week. Right? We all agree on that. But I think the problem is that it was, not that it was episodic, but that it didn't really do anything with these characters. And I think we go back to the issue of characters, is that these aren't really characters. They're caricatures. It's interesting how I've seen some commentators say that we learned so much more about these characters than in any of the movies and blah, 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 blah. I can't even with a straight face tell you if I know much about these characters from what I can see, much less care about them or like them.
But one's a baby Yoda.
They don't say anything about him. He's just there. They're trying to...
What's the Mandalorian's character?
He's a gunslinger. He's a bounty hunter.
He's a badass with a heart of gold.
It's hilarious because I'm watching the documentary series on Mandalorian, and they're really going into you get so much from the character, and it's a challenge that he's encased in armor, but you still get the emotion and you still get the hero and you like him. And I'm just there sitting, and I'm like, what are you talking about? If that's what you thought was going for, it was a complete fail. It was a complete fail, and that was the case. I can't tell you who this guy is. It's hard to connect with things that without faces, first and foremost. But even then, the slimmings or the slim pickings that they throw at you about what to describe these caricatures are minimal at best. I don't understand.
The Mandalorian would work best as a side character. If there was another character, Well, Boba Fett was a background character,
Right.
not even a side character. But I could see the Mandalorian working as like maybe if you have like another main character and it's about other characters, and then the Mandalorian pops in every once in a while as like a Hondo.
Right.
And cannot, what the hell was his name?
Cad Bane?
Hondo
Onaka.
Yeah, like that kind of character that pops in every now and then for an episode or whatever. Like, I could see him working as that kind of character, but like as the main character, I just kind of get nothing from him besides the fact that he's a badass bounty hunter. Oh, but he has a heart of gold for Baby Yoda, and it's like I kind of figured that from the first episode, and that's what I got. That's all I got throughout the whole series. Like, that's it. And you can maybe make that up and say, well, the show isn't really about him and Baby Yoda. It's more of a vehicle for all these little week-to-week stories, right? So it's like...
It's called The Mandalorian.
Well, yeah.
That's
but
a problem for me, too. I have a different issue with that. We'll get to that. I'll get to it.
Wait your turn. Thank you very much. I could see that, right? Where it's just like they're kind of one-note characters, but the real characterization is you get from meeting new characters and their interesting stories from week to week. But that doesn't really work because of the serialized episodes that we got of The Mandalorian in season 1. They were too short. Episodic. Sorry. I said the wrong word. They were too short. They were 30 minutes. And if you're going to do this, I think the episodes need to at least be an hour so you can introduce the character, introduce the conflict, the new characters, develop them a bit, and then conclude their story by the end. And if you're going to have fun action and adventure, that takes up some time, right? So doing all of that in half an hour doesn't work. I don't care about any of the, like, literally none of the characters in any of the episodic ones. I didn't care about any of the characters on the Tatooine episode. I didn't care about any of the characters in their fucking Seven Samurai episode. I didn't care about any of the characters in the
prison escape.
The prison escape one. Like, I forgot who any of the people he worked with were. The one that actually, the only one that worked, I feel, was the Ugnaught.
Oh, Queel? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Nick Nolte.
Yes. He was likable.
The Ugnaught, the small pig.
The one that dies?
Yeah. Spoilers.
Sorry.
It's fine.
Well, because he's the only one that comes out like in more than one episode.
Mostly, yeah.
Mostly. But yeah,
and
I like him.
They actually give him an arc.
Yeah, there's more to him. He's interesting.
And they killed him off.
And then they killed him off. And I feel like he's the only one, like literally the only one in the entire series where I'm like, I think he's by far the most interesting character.
I agree.
From the first
even
season.
more so than like the Mandalorian.
The Mandalorian is the least interesting.
Like, yeah, the least interesting. And before you mentioned Queel, I probably would have, as far as like interesting, I'm interested in Moff Gideon because I like Giancarlo Esposito as an actor.
Yeah.
That's it though.
A lot of them,
not because of the fucking Darksaber. I didn't give a fuck about the Darksaber. I was just like, as far as a character and what his background is, but I could give two shits where he got the Darksaber from. Let's just be real about that.
And again, a lot of these side characters are fun. Like I like Carl Weathers because it's fucking Carl Weathers,
right?
And he can make anything work. But they're side characters, right? So if you're going to have the main characters and then the fun side characters, you need to make the main characters work and be deep enough characters to carry you through. But they don't do that because half the time they're carrying on one story, which is saving the Yoda, and then the other half of the time it's episodic. So then you have to rely on the side characters, but they're not that good. But then you have to go back, and they didn't really develop the main characters, but you got to rely on them now, but they weren't really that developed. Everyone's all kind of surface level, and a lot of them are fun, right? Like I said, Carl Weathers is fun. The Taika Waititi droid is fun.
IG-11 was pretty fun. I liked him.
Yeah. I liked him. But it's not enough to carry a whole show.
No.
Like, again, the two best characters are fucking killed off. It was the fucking Ugnaught and IG-11. So yeah, but it's okay because we're gonna bring in characters that are already developed and
we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
So
that's a doozy.
They don't have to do the work.
That's a
to
doozy
develop
there.
anything.
Yeah.
It's funny because that was the
God.
thing that Alexis did not want to happen, and then look what's happening. But
Dude, I literally told you, like, like right after I told you, like every day a new character got announced.
I know. But before we get to that, and to stick on what Peter was saying, because I was doing a head count of the number of the 8 episodes that we got. And literally only 4 of them, which is half, only 4 of the episodes, which was the pilot, episode 3, and then episode 7 and 8, only 4 of those episodes were like actual any story. The rest were just like their own isolated things. They're just the episodic episodes that were their own standalone thing.
Yeah, and a lot of it is just kind of like
Meandering, dicking around.
It's so meandering and so much
a lot of
around.
walking.
And it's like, I know they're gonna, and it seems, and it's weird, right? Because at first I'm like, okay, it's episodic, so it's just like, boom, we meet these characters, boom, we meet these characters. Like, I thought, like, okay, episodic. But then it wasn't, because then they went back to the main story. And then it seems like next season, they're gonna bring back a lot of the same characters that were part of the episodic episodes.
On top of all new ones. Well, old new ones, but... yeah.
Oh, yeah. So it's like, we're gonna go back to Tatooine, and and it's like, I have no problem bringing back episodic characters, but it's like, do more before you start bringing these characters back, or just fucking decide what you are as a show.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Just decide.
Like that's what I was telling Alexis, that like when we were watching Clone Wars and they said that Ahsoka was going to be in The Mandalorian, I didn't want that to happen because it's literally just going to be centered around her. Like,
also, why? Why there? She has no business being on that show.
Exactly. Like, I love Ahsoka, and I don't want her to just be the main thing in The Mandalorian because I don't like that show.
Even for an episode.
Like, I want the show to be good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want the show to be good enough to have Ahsoka. I don't want Ahsoka to make the show good.
You know what? I don't want Ahsoka at all in it.
Well, yeah, that would be nice, but it's going to happen.
I know it would be nice, wouldn't it?
I just hate. I know a lot of Star Wars fans love seeing the connections, like, oh my god, you know, this connects to this, connects to this, connects to this. And at some level, I think when you do it well, it can be really fun. And I enjoy it too.
It's excessive, though, at this point. It's beyond excessive.
It's really excessive. And to me, it makes the universe smaller.
A lot.
When, like, Ahsoka Tano has literally interacted with every important character ever that has ever existed in the Star Wars universe, it just feels dumb to me. Like, stop. Why can't we just have these characters over here in this corner meeting their own original characters and doing their own thing, right? Like, not every...
Make more great episodes. Make another Ahsoka.
Yeah, make another character that's as loved as Ahsoka. Like, stop bringing in the same characters to the same things that you're always making, because it just makes the world feel so fucking small.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
It's a crutch to lean on, I think.
And we're going to get more into that. But that's more with season 2. I want to finish off just my issues of season 1. And an even bigger issue for me, and this is why, and I'm curious no one's pointed this out. This is a show that's called The Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm.
But the premise of it was sold as a bounty hunter show.
Yes.
And at times it is a bounty hunter show, and then at times it's a Mandalorian show. And I feel like that is perhaps what is most bringing down the quality of this, because it feels like you have two good ideas for two individual TV shows and they're clashing together.
Mm-hmm. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I much rather have bounty hunter shit, because there's a lot of fun, interesting, weird thing.
Mm-hmm.
He could get contracted for all kinds of crazy jobs, and you meet all kinds of crazy, kooky Star Wars characters.
Isn't that what we thought the show was going to be? It just seems like the people were just lied to with the promotion of this show, because it ended up being the Mandalorian, but not really. But then still, like it can't make up its mind, it seems.
But I'm and I know I'm on the minority here.
We all are.
I don't want it to get into Mandalorian stuff. I know it's called The Mandalorian, but I don't give a shit. Like,
well, we talked about, we had a whole thing about our differences with Mandalorians, right? On an offset. It's weird.
I'm tired of Mandalorian culture. I'm tired of Darksabers. I'm tired of certain Mandalorian characters that just keep popping up and up and up and up. And it's just like, it was cool the first time I saw it back, in those original Clone Wars episodes. But I'm just tired of it now. And I just don't feel like they've done really anything interesting with it since then. It's just sort of like popping up and going like, here it is, and it's just like, stop, please.
I think a show called The Mandalorian that is supposed to be about the Mandalorians would be better serviced if it was actually about the Mandalorians as a group of people, if not just with this bounty hunter off guy and then his adopted foundling. Like that. And then with the fact that we have a Force-sensitive character in and of itself just introduces like a whole locker full of like old like lore and nostalgia and like, when are we gonna get Jedi? When are we gonna have lightsabers? It's like,
and and for sure we're gonna have lightsaber battles in the fucking
the second
season. And it's like, Jedi and like the Force and shit is supposed to be rare in the Star Wars universe. And to the Mandalorians, to their credit, they do make that known within the first few episodes, because they're like, what the fuck? When Force shit starts happening.
Yeah.
But it's like, just for once, I want to see a Star Wars story where it just never comes into play, And you thought this would be it. Yeah, I was like, this is it. To me, the connections that you have already to, bigger Star Wars are the fact that the Mandalorian is a Boba Fett knockoff. He just is. If you were to turn him green, you would know no difference between his character and the Mandalorian. All the lines he says, just fucking everything. IG-11 is IG-88. It's the fucking same droid. You have Ugnaughts. You have fucking Empire. Like, you have so much shit.
Tatooine, Jawas, Tusken Raiders.
You have so much shit that already connects back to, original Star Wars or the greater world of Star Wars. Just take that, start there, and then move towards your own stuff and introduce your own original ideas and characters. Yeah. But instead, it feels like they're going backwards. It seems like the most original we're getting is the first season, and now we gotta go backwards and introduce all these legacy, quote-unquote, characters.
Well, now that we're moving on to that season, I think I can speak for all of us, where it just looks like a fucking mess, considering all the players that are going to be put into place. But we should have probably been tipped off with the whole introduction of a Darksaber, that all this shit was coming. And then I'll add to that Boba Fett is basically all but confirmed to be on the show, which that in and of itself brings another issue. The Mandalorian Mando guy is a clone of Boba Fett, and this is his show. If you're going to have Boba Fett be alive, why not just make a Boba Fett show?
just the Boba Fett show.
Oh, and by the way, that's also happening. It seems as if that's in development. Boba Fett's getting his own show
How
on
would
Disney
it be
Plus.
any different than the Mandalorian? I'm not kidding. This is why I don't. When I talk about the character of the Mandalorian, if you literally had called this show Boba Fett,
It wouldn't have been different.
And literally just took the Mandalorian, paint his shit green,
Yeah.
and then just switch names, but have every script exactly the same, I don't know if people would just be like, oh yeah, that's Boba Fett. Like, it's the same character. It's the same fucking character. Again, I complain to you. I think, was it on chat? Or like they keep fucking doing this? Like they want to... Okay, where it's like they want to bring back an original character, but they kind of don't have the balls to do it, so they just kind of dip their toe, and then after they dip their toe, they just bring it back. Like they did the same thing with Savage Opress. Savage Opress literally only existed because it was dipping their toe into like, should we bring Maul back? And then they just brought back Maul anyway. And it's like, then why'd you do Savage Opress? Imagine if like there's probably going to be like a history between the Mandalorian and Boba Fett. Or
I don't want that. It was
in the same way that Savage Opress, like, yeah. I just rather they not do that. Well, you might as well just say all the shit that they're gonna bring for season 2.
Yeah, so what we know so far, so Boba Fett has been confirmed. Tamora Morrison's going to be in an episode. Now, to be fair, all these characters, from everything that I've read and from what Peter and I have gone over, are limited to only single episode appearances. It's not as if they're like joining the series as official. Like,
then what is the point?
That's a great commentary, Alexis, but save it real quick.
They're fun cameos.
So we know that Ahsoka Tano, Sabine Wren, Captain Rex, Boba Fett, Bo-Katan are all in the... Harrison Dula. And apparently also Darth Maul is somehow in the mix with a flashback to when he ruled the Mandalorians in the Clone Wars. That's how they would bring him back.
Okay.
Maybe also people are thinking...
He has a second pair of cybernetic legs.
Yeah. The top half.
The top half is cybernetic too.
People are
all
thinking
cybernetic
that
this time.
The actor Timothy Oliphant, which was announced this past weekend, he's going to be doing Cad Bane. So
that one hurts because I really like Cad Bane, and like I always wanted him to like make the jump to live action, and as sort of like an ancillary character. But I just know the way that they're going to use him might not be to my liking.
There's a chance perhaps maybe he's not playing. I think it's most likely Cad Bane, but I don't know. Maybe they make him be Pre Vizsla or something.
Yeah, he could be something else. Yeah,
a different character. This is abysmal, and honestly, this is not even. This is just so incredibly disappointing. Now, keep in mind, a lot of these characters that were named, I do like. And it's because I like them that I'm really upset about this. Because they have no purpose being here. And I feel like it's going to diminish them by being in this in a lot of ways. And we can tell you that, because we talked about this, Peter and I, in the last podcast, about the Rebels sequel series that's going to come late 2020. Ahsoka and Rex and Sabine, probably also and Hera, they're probably all going to be together, and like that's going to be used to launch the animated series. Like they're probably going to use an entire episode to promote another show out there. That's
how they promoted the movie.
I also fuck. But what does this tell you? It tells you that. God, I love Filoni, but it just seems like he can't do anything without like just bringing back the same old characters. We want new characters. The promise of this show was to create new spaces, new personas, new locales, just the promise of something that we hadn't experienced. And you bringing back literally, it's the greatest hits of Filoni characters being brought back for season 2 for seemingly no other reason than to be a backdoor promotional tool for another show that's being used for some other time. And what that also tells us, though, beyond just that, is, okay, Favreau is literally just letting Filoni do what he wants, then? Favreau's just like leaning on him? Okay, fine. And then also, if literally all of these characters are being brought in for guest spots, then it's official. The Mandalorian is just Saturday Night Live with like a guest host every single week.
But then you'll have those episodes where they bring those original characters.
Oh.
They'll bring back the prison break characters from the first season somewhere, probably.
But you know what that tells me? This show's not going anywhere.
Yeah,
like the story, the narrative is not going anywhere. We already know what it's going to be. Half of the episodes will be a waste of time, episodic things that will mean or amount to nothing besides like cool guest appearances, I guess. And then it just tells me that like it's interesting that for as much as the fans criticize the sequel Star Wars movies for having no game plan, it seems like this show has no game plan, no direction at all for what this is going to be or how it'll end.
Tell you what direction I think they're going? I think they're gonna like move away.
Can you tell?
Yeah, I think so. I think they're gonna move away from bounty hunter shit and really lean into the Mandalorian stuff. I think like the whole Bo-Katan thing, I think she might be there for more than one episode because they're really gonna lean into what's his name? The
Moff
Gideon with the Darksaber and how he destroyed their planet. And they're like, they might turn the Mandalorian into like the new leader of the Mandalorians. Like that might
like
be
a Mandalore, like take back Mandalore type of thing.
Yeah. I could see them like that's the ultimate grand plan. Like the Mandalorian rising up to be the leader of the Mandalorians, and
but that's not interesting.
Because we've already seen it happen.
It was like, it's sad, obviously, like story wise, but it was interesting that like Mandalore was like this great like loss in the Clone Wars type of thing.
Yeah, I liked like
Mandalore. That's cool. That gives it like, I don't know, like it's interesting. So do something else with another, like you.
Real quick though,
literally, you have so much like room to do so many different things, but you keep going back to the.
You just don't do it, and you just go back to what you've always done. Real quick though, I think you're right that it is obviously going in that direction, and now that you mention it, that would explain then why Boba Fett's getting his own show. Because then all the bounty hunter stuff will just go.
Then the real
there.
bounty hunter show will be Boba Fett.
Yeah.
I will say it. Like I thought, Mandalore and the Mandalorians were interesting back in the Clone Wars because it's like this was once a really violent society that had like you had a Satine that was trying to move away from that, so they went to like extreme peace. And then remnants of, those zealots, those crazy terrorists that believed in the old ways, came in and were, sort of became enemies. And they're trying to drag Mandalore back to its violent roots. And, I think there was a lot of interesting shit going on there.
Yeah.
Right? I do. But, like, at this point, it's just... At this point, it just feels like it's back to
square one.
They're cool guys in cool armor.
Well, even the plot is back to square one because it keeps doing a back and forth of we need to get Mandalore. They get Mandalore. They lose Mandalore. They get Mandalore again.
They
we're
lose
just
it.
zigzagging back and forth.
It.
It's like we feel like there's no progression being made. And as I mentioned to you, in the Clone Wars and how they were portrayed there, and it's interesting how people have kind of lost this because fandom really glamorizes the Mandalorians, and there are cool aspects to those characters, but they began in the canon as Death Watch. They were right-wing terrorists that hated a society of peace.
Yeah.
And because war is in their blood and they worship war, they're warmongers is basically is what they are. And so Bo-Katan is the sister of Satine. I would have liked to have had more moments of Bo-Katan being very regretful of what she did because she helped Maul capture Mandalore, and she helped what led to her sister's death and the fall of Mandalore, and then, of course, the Imperial occupation, all of that. I'd love to see more of that character. The only reflection we got in the Clone Wars was when she said that, I wish I was good at something other than war. I wish you were too, because honestly, like, you kind of fuck things up every now and then. Like, really, like, this is kind of on you, really. Really.
Maybe the Mandalorian will delve into that, but, like, of what you've seen the Mandalorians in the show, it's just like, these guys are badass. And it's like...
they were fur now.
And again, my whole thing was always like, oh, like they're fucking crazy, violent fanatics, right? And but then Satine, it's like maybe she goes too far in trying to keep the peace, and there, you know, there's interesting political back and forth with that.
You could argue that what she was doing, while there were good intentions, she was erasing their culture, and she was basically doing that.
But then you can also argue that, like, you don't always want to be neutral, right? There are moments where you have to.
Well, think of real world events. I mean, we still have in this day and age people who want to. They're proud of their Confederate heritage, if that's still a thing out there. And we all know the Confederacy in the U.S. was full of racists, so slave owners. So I mean, that's a whole.
So that whole shit was I found interesting. But now it's just like it feels like there's
nowhere to go.
They've gone full circle back to Boba Fett, where they're cool guys in a cool suit of armor. And, you know, like, this is the way. Badass. Hoorah. My man. Yeah. They went full Aquaman, you know? And it's... will they delve into the interesting parts in the next seasons? I don't know. I'm hopeful. But it's like the first season doesn't really give me much...
promise?
What's the word? Hope. Because much of the first season was just dicking around. There were some good episodes that I liked, but it feels like, okay, you had setup, and then you had the ending, and then the middle, where you should have been those middle, like 3 or 4 episodes, where you should have been developing the main characters. You just had them be episodic shows that really didn't mean anything. And it's like... you kind of shit the bed there, but and
then we already know what season 2 is going to be, so it's like,
I mean,
whatever.
I don't know really.
No, we know, but I mean, because we have all these characters.
Clone Wars Part 2.
Yeah, more Clone Wars stuff, which means more side adventures, which means more waste of time and not really any story. I think that's what I'm kind of like latching on to most here. It's interesting to me that there are Star Wars fans that like say that this series has a lot of character development. I guess you don't know what character development is then, because this isn't what it is. It's not. It's
I'm not gonna go that harsh.
Useless details and facts and backstory does not equal character development.
I'll put it this way: there's light character development to me, but like the way people talk about, like, oh yeah, like with the TV show, you really get to understand these characters and really delve into who they are.
Real
And
quick,
it's like-
Alexis, can you name the main characters? And can you tell me what about them are who they are? No. Okay.
Is she frozen or is she just thinking?
No, she said no. She nodded no. She can't. Okay.
Okay. Well, I'll put it this way. I don't see how there's any more development here than a film. Like, all the development that the characters went through across 8 episodes could have easily fit in a 2-hour film.
In a mediocre movie, I think.
I think it would be better because you'd cut out a lot of the fat.
Well, I mean, as a whole, sure. But the development in and of itself wouldn't be that much to, praise at all.
It'd be on the same level as like Solo.
Yeah,
but better than,
but I mean,
probably
but
better
I mean,
than Rogue One.
Right, but I mean that's a very low bar.
Yeah.
That's a very low bar of character progression. Those movies had a big issue with those characters, didn't they?
But they had the Ugnaught and IG-11.
Yeah, which worked better than a lot of what those 2 movies offered anyway. Yeah. I will say though, in recapping those episodes, I looked back at some of the scenes. I think the best part about this series is the production value. When they blow stuff up and when they shoot things, it works and it looks great.
The when he's taking on Republic droids, that's really cool. The when IG-11 is pew 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 shooting everyone, that's a lot of fun. Like the way the robot, like his whole body does like 360 turns, and he comes riding in with Baby Yoda to save the day. There's a lot of, like I said, as much as I've been shitting on The Mandalorian, as far as like not the main saga movies, but the side shit, I think it's probably the best. I currently would probably put it above Rogue One and Solo, and I don't hate either of those films. So yeah.
My problem is I don't care I don't care about any of those.
I'm not in love with it either, and then that's what kind of sucks.
And there are more things about Mandalorian that I dislike than either Rogue One or Solo. So it's just hard to rank things you don't care about. I can't give you an answer yet as to what I would do.
I think that's more to do with the fact that it's 8 hours.
Maybe.
I think
and half of that. Well, not really 8 hours. It's 4 hours because it's half hour.
Oh, that's true. Oh, what is the excuse for this fucking show then? Okay, anyway, going on. I don't know.
Well, I mean, we also, in line with what we're talking about, the Cassian Andor Rogue One prequel series is getting underway. Bail Organa is confirmed to be on there. There was even, and then of course, I think more and more the Ahsoka Tano live action TV series with Rosario Dawson is happening. And I think they mentioned, the people that I was watching, that it would take place right after Star Wars Rebels. Not like that scene. That's getting its own different series at the
Return
end of
the Jedi, you mean?
The Ahsoka live action TV show is taking place between episodes 4 and 6, from what I know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that for sure is, I think, is what I read.
Okay, so when she's Fulcrum?
Fulcrum.
Right. Mm-hmm. That's boring.
So her book, basically?
I worry about how these animated characters that I love so much will translate to live action. That's my biggest fear. And then also, the most that I'm interested in is that animated series we were talking about, Peter. The Unknown Regions sequel series. And I'm going to get those characters there. So, like, I don't feel like I need this Ahsoka TV show if I'm going to get another Ahsoka show. Right? Like,
I was all for an Ahsoka show, but...
Well, first of all, Rosario Dawson's great casting. I think she'd do great. Yeah.
Because, I don't know. Before... I was all for it, but then how they ended Rebels, and then it's like, there's really nothing to fucking do with her. It's the same thing. It's like, I would have been all for an Obi-Wan, any, live action thing, but then they did his shit in fucking Rebels. Like, the most interesting thing you could do with him was already done in Rebels, so it's like it's kind of pointless now. I mean, yeah, fucking Filoni stealing all their good shit. So yeah, at this point, it's like Rosario Dawson, I think, is perfect casting for live action. And before, I would have really liked to see them do something with her, but now there's no point.
And you know,
everything interesting they could have covered, they already covered. Yeah.
All of these live action shows, Mandalorian, Boba Fett, Ahsoka, and Cassian Andor. My excitement for those shows is like non-existent, but I guarantee you this: they're going to be amazingly successful on Disney Plus.
Yeah. And again, The Mandalorian is something where it's like that has potential because it's not attached to previously known characters. Until now. We kind of know their fate. And then what they do is just attach the show like crazy to previously known characters. And it's like, why?
It's honestly really aggressive. How they really just threw all the Clone Wars characters at once.
Yeah. And like they didn't need it.
No.
Like the show was already
It was already a
popular.
hit.
To me,
yeah.
Right, that's true, but I will...
Just work on what you have.
Well, yeah, the show, as we discussed, though, does have its problems, and I feel like throwing these characters just bring in all new problems without addressing what this show is going to be. Like, yeah. I think they're really just trying to, like, elongate how long this show is going to run. Because if like every season is going to be 8 episodes, and if only like half of those episodes are going to be any kind of like story development, then you're only getting about 4 episodes a year that matter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of... I think it was 5 episodes with the first season, but that's how I felt. Like, if I were to rewatch the show, I'm skipping those 3 in the middle that I don't...
But which was the Seventh Samurai, the Tatooine one, and the prison one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't care for those. And it's like nothing really happens. It's just the Mandalorian dicking around. Especially the Tatooine one. I thought that one was just fucking awful. Thank God we're going back to Tatooine.
Why was it awful than the others? Because it was just all the same like Star Wars shit brought back, or it was just genuinely like the acting was wrong, the writing was soft? What was it?
It just felt so pointless.
But like, they all felt pointless to an extent.
Okay, no. Okay, well, I'll put it this way. At least with like the prison one, it's like you're doing heist shit, which is kind of fun. You're in this prison ship thing. There's other characters. I'm not loving it, but it's new shit. Like, it's keeping my interest. Whereas with Tatooine, it's like, whoa, look at Tatooine. This is all the Tatooine shit you love. Tatooine.
Yeah, that one had nothing to it. Though.
It just nothing.
It was not even a character moment. It was just, it literally was nothing.
No,
it was just
cool action.
I like the seventh. Actually, the Seventh Samurai episode is the only.
That was better than the Tatooine one. There was
I think I fell asleep in that one like twice. I don't like it.
Yeah, I was bored, but there was at least an attempt of some development there.
And then the big vehicle they bring in is a fucking walker. The ATST, isn't it?
J.J. Abrams syndrome.
And it's like, Jesus, fuck, like, just don't rely on shit we've already seen. Why is it so hard? Making new vehicles, making new characters. That's why I liked the Republic droids. I'm like, oh, that's a new droid. Thank you. You know, I'm scrambling for scraps here. But like, the reason, those 3 I don't care. The first 3 I like. The first 3 episodes. Because the first episode is basically like, this guy's the Mandalorian, just introducing you to that. But there's cool action and creatures, and that's fun. The second one is actually maybe the best, actually. Because I like, and again, it's like fucking Jawas again. Great. But his whole like scaling the side of the Jawa thing was cool. And like trying to achieve like get the egg. Like his whole thing, like his whole mission was retrieving that egg. And then immediately when he gave it to the Jawas ate it. And it kind of mirrored his mission in getting Baby Yoda. But then right when he gave the reality of right when he gives Baby Yoda to his employers, they will eat him, so to speak, destroy him. So it's a nice little like parallel where like sort of like where it kind of clicks with him. And I really like that moment at the end where the Ugnaughts like, well, I hope the baby brings you, a good bounty. And then like the sinister music, doom, doom, like it kind of brings you back to the fact like, no, like he's selling this baby. That ain't cool. And then the third episode is when he escapes with him. Like all that stuff, I was like, okay, like this is good setup. Like now let's get into the developing part. And then they didn't. They had like 3 episodes where they dicked around, and then the last 2 was like, okay, let's wrap it up.
It's all action.
It was very much a third act where they're bringing this shit back, but it's like you forgot to do the developing part in the middle that would really bring this whole thing together.
They even feature the end of certain arcs, but with no development. Like, for example, this whole IG-11 thing was...
Yeah.
The thing is, Mando doesn't like droids because droids killed his family in the Clone Wars. But then there's like this supposed to be this emotional thing where all of a sudden he gives a shit about IG-11 and then tries to convince him to not sacrifice himself at that last episode.
Yeah, and it's like if you were, this was one story and you were writing it as one story, IG-11 would come back during the 4th episode, and there would be some point in the 4th, 5th, or 6th episode where they sort of develop a bond, and maybe even IG-11 saves his life. So then you don't have him save his life and then immediately do the sacrifice move, because you saw they're basically doing all the development that should have happened throughout the series in those last 2 episodes. And it's like, no, you should have spread that out through the previous 3. So then at the end, when, he makes the sacrifice, it's like, oh, fuck, we've built up to this. From the beginning, where, he, without hesitation, he popped a cap in his fucking face, in the first episode towards, sort of contentious, getting along through the later episodes, through the midway point, 5th episode, IG-11 saves his life. They're more buddy-buddy through, 6 and then 7 and then, sacrifice play in 8. But they didn't do that. Yeah. And again, I do agree where it's like, choose what you want to be. If you just want to be a, new story of the week type thing, then do that. If you want to have one continuous story, then do that. But you can't do both. And again, I do think this is like Filoni influence, because like with Clone Wars and Rebels, you obviously have an overarching story, and you have episodes that are very particular in both Rebels and Clone Wars to that overarching story. But then you have like throwaway episodes, right?
Right.
Sort of episodes of the week, shit just happened. And they tried to have that here, but it's kind of impossible to have that when you're only 8 episodes. And you're only a half an hour, right? So you're doing 2 things, but you're not doing 2 things. You're doing both things, but neither of them you're doing that well. Whereas if you just pick one, you could do that one really well. That's my 7th review on this podcast of The Mandalorian.
Before we leave, we should mention when the Skywalker, oh my god, Rise of Skywalker, I'm dead. I'm literally just done. The Rise of Skywalker debuted on Disney Plus a few days ago for May the 4th. And with it was an extra documentary feature called The Skywalker Legacy, which was a combination. It was a behind-the-scenes making of the movie, with some archival footage thrown in there to kind of like make it, the fact that this thing was finally having its 9th installment of this franchise. And I'm the only one that watched the whole thing all the way through, and most of it was pretty just vapid and useless. It was just, whatever you would expect that would be. But there were some nuggets of revealing moments in there, and I clipped those and I sent them out to Alexis and to Peter. And it got quite the reaction, especially from Peter, who told me that I ruined his day, and that it only began. And it only began. He woke up in the morning, he saw those clips, and I'm like, my day is fucking ruined, and it only began. It mostly was comprised of JJ, because again, it's 2 hours, and most of those clips that I sent were like 30 seconds, a minute. It was very sparse, like segments where they would dive into like the rationale behind the big creative decisions, even some of the smaller ones. And so the things that I shared with them were mostly just J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio, the director and the writer of this movie, explaining themselves in some way. This is the most that I think I've seen anything explain themselves. And while I was recording those clips, I continuously just had to like press the pause button and have a good laugh.
I don't remember which one it was, but the one where he was like, well, I don't know.
Oh, J.J. Abrams?
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a couple clips where I felt bad because he just looked confused. He's just like...
And like, the fact
I don't know
that's
hit
what
home.
They chose to put in this, you making your movie and being confused about it.
But it wasn't just like it was like the way he said it and the way he looked really just looks like I don't know what the fuck to do. Like it was that kind of moment.
Yeah, that moment you're talking about was he was having a hard time picking the design for the dagger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was what it was. And he was like completely just not having whatever they were showing him. And then he decides, when I think he's holding up the final version of that dagger, and the circular, the circumference thing comes out of the dagger, and you can tell that he's drawn to it, and then he looks over to Chris Terrio and he's like, "That's cool. That's cool."
Well, I just want to name real quick,
yes,
like some lines that stuck out to me.
Okay, wait, hold on a minute. That's important because at no point does it occur, because that dagger was a big part of why this was a big fail. I mean, you can say that about many of the aspects of this film, but that whole plot line of the Sith Wayfinders, what the fuck? And the fact that you have a dagger and that it's supposed to like be designed to find the throne room of the wreckage of the Death Star in a fucking ocean, in the exact like coordinates of it, like that verges on the kooky. Like what?
And it's like Rey was really lucky that apparently it worked, because theoretically it would only work if you stood in that exact same spot and held it up. Because if you were literally standing anywhere else, it wouldn't make sense. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of that stuff just kind of feels like it was just decided, like, okay, yeah, sure, go. But some of my favorite lines where it just really gives you an insight into how they viewed what they were making. I think it was Chris Terrio who was like 30 seconds after we brought up the idea of bringing back Palpatine, we said, yes, we have to do it. It's just, and then he said, like, the Star Wars saga is the story of Skywalkers and Palpatines.
Yes. What?
And I'm just like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? First of all, Palpatines?
Yeah.
What do you mean Palpatines? Like, this is some, like, Game of Thrones shit where the Skywalkers... Like, no. Palpatine is just a bad guy. Like, he's not even a character. The most he's ever a character is in Revenge of the Sith. And that's just because he's like, no. And he says that for, like, 30 minutes. But, like, he was never a character. There was never this, like, oh, yeah, the Palpatines and the Skywalker. Because there's one Palpatine. What do you mean Palpatines? Like it's this, like, the fucking Hatfields and McCoys or some shit. Or it's like some Game of Thrones shit. And it's like, it never was. Like, what are you talking about? The Skywalkers and the Palpatines. Is this how you saw Star Wars? Okay.
Well, to follow on that, it gets to the wreckage of the throne room of the Death Star, and I think it cues back up Chris Terrio, and he says, "What a more fitting place than on the ruins where their grandfathers had this great confrontation, where Rey and Kylo Ren meet to find the way." Isn't that ridiculous?
It feels like
literally when the Skywalker and Palpatine line happened, David was next to me, and I literally just went, "What?" And, like, next to him, and he just looks at me and, like, rolls his eyes and just, like, no.
Skywalkers and Palpatines. God, that line is one for the books. But it also seems like they're unable to find meaning out of any of this unless they can connect it back to the original trilogy, like what you said, Alexis, where it's like where their grandfathers met, and it's like they could only derive meaning out of Rey if she's related to another character. Like, so much of the shit you sent was like, we knew this was the right thing to do because they did it in the original trilogy.
Yeah, they literally say that.
Like they don't even mince words about it. Like, there's several times it's like, oh yeah, the fans will remember this. And it's like, okay, do you maybe want to dig a little deeper for what you're writing or doing? No, just the fans will remember this? Okay. It's a story of ice and fire, Skywalkers and Palpatine.
Oh my god.
Dun,
Ice
dun,
and
dun, dun,
lightning.
dun. Ice and lightning. But no, that's what it was, and it's so fucking crazy. And then I sent you, I don't have the book, but fuck, I saw this quote, and
you want me to find it?
Yeah, find the quote.
I'll find it.
Did you see the quote that I sent, Moreno?
I think you only sent it to me personally.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah.
It might take you a while.
This was last week, I think.
Yeah.
We'll see how far it was.
A quote from where?
It was a quote from Chris Terrio. I think it was the art of the
Rise of Skywalker. Yeah. Yeah. What were other things in the meantime, Moreno, that you heard or just went like found interesting?
Think what you said was like the one. I think that one was the first video, and I think after I saw that one, the video finished, and I just texted Alexis like, I don't even want to watch the rest of these.
Yeah, the Palpatines and Skywalkers one. Yeah, that's a doozy. But then the following one, it gets to Kathleen Kennedy and J.J. Abrams talking about how Kylo Ren wearing the mask makes him feel more powerful.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. In like every time, and this isn't just in the documentary, but in other places, like all I hear is JJ going like, "Oh yeah, when I came back, the first thing I knew was I want the helmet back." But he doesn't really give a reason, like a character reason. Like there was a clear character reason for why Kylo destroys the helmet. I'm not even mad that the helmet's back, but it's like for them, it's just
he says
like
it's like who he is or some stupid shit like that. Oh no.
And it so much of what he says, it's like, did you watch the previous movie? Or like, because this whole thing is like, yeah, I like the helmet. I want the helmet back. And it's like, okay, I'm totally cool with them bringing back the helmet. But, like, is there a character reason? Like, it's the same, like, shit. I almost feel like I owe Colin Trevorrow an apology. Like, legitimate. I think I owe him an apology. Because I was listening to Jenny Nicholson. She read the script, Colin Trevorrow's script. And there's a lot of decisions that I just disagree with and that I just hate. But there's a lot of shit where it's like, oh, you did watch the previous movie. Like, there's a scene where Kylo Ren takes Vader's helmet and then just tosses it out the window. And it's like, I'm done with this now. And it's like, oh, you saw The Last Jedi. But with this, like with Rise of Skywalker, he just goes back to like worshipping it for some reason.
Yeah.
Just somebody put this.
It's so annoying because I feel like that's such like a shitty thing to do. Like, I get it. You started this new trilogy. Like, okay, you got to do what you wanted to do in the first one. The guy who came after you, he, like, moved the story along.
He had a story.
But he took in consideration what you did in the first one.
He had a story,
you
though.
know?
That's the thing. Rian Johnson made it into an actual story. A lot of The Force Awakens, unfortunately, just ends up being set up to The Last Jedi.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, at least he watched the first one, and you can tell. And he, you know... He took, like I said, he took in consideration what you did in the first one. And then you go and you're like, no, fuck him. Like, I'm going to do this thing because he fucked it up.
Peter, I want to ask you this question because somebody put this out in the ether when...
Real quick to Alexis. What's really funny, though, is I don't know if he feels that, because I used to think that, too. Like, well, maybe he doesn't like where...
The movie.
Where, yeah, he doesn't like the movie and he doesn't like the directions that Ryan took his characters. But then when he gets a lot of his characters back for 9, he does shit all with them. Like, he does nothing with...
Literally all of them were fucked.
But
we talk about a lot about Rey and Kylo, but
Finn?
Poor Finn and Poe.
And then, like, my whole thing is like, oh, the Knights of Ren were his creation. Like, for sure he's going to do something with them. And it's like, he doesn't give a fuck about the Knights of Ren. Why did you create the Knights of Ren? If
he didn't give a fuck about Hux either. He just fucking killed off Hux.
He just killed off Hux. And it's like, it's one thing if he just takes the characters and says, fuck you, I'm going to do what I want with them. But then he's just kind of like, I kind of don't care about these. It seems like he doesn't, because he just... Yeah, okay. Go ahead, Alexis.
There's so many contradictions. He also said the best thing that Rian Johnson did was give me Kelly Marie Tran, and then he doesn't use her all but 75 seconds in the movie.
That was clear PR speak, you know? I think that one's 100%
Yeah, but it's unfortunate
clear.
Considering what the actual result ended up being.
Yeah.
I was going to say to that point about, somebody made a point when Rise of Skywalker first came out in theaters about the massive changes in narrative from 8 to 9.
Mm-hmm.
And they made this allegory. I'm not sure if it's allegory, but this comparison. What if in the original trilogy, that I am your father moment in Empire Strikes Back was just completely did a 180 in episode 6? It destroys the movie.
Yeah, it destroys the whole flow, right? So, like, you may not like the decisions they made in The Last Jedi, but too bad. Like, the first film establishes the characters. The second one, you know, that's where you throw in the twists and turns, and you set them, you challenge them, and you set them on their course. And then the third film resolves those issues, right? So it's like, you may not have liked the fact that Rey was a nobody, and that's it, but you resolve that shit in episode 3.
And there was even
And I agree. It's sort of like if after they set up the romance for like Leia and Han, you start Return of the Jedi and Leia's just with Lando now. And they don't even like mention. It's just like, oh yeah, they're a couple now. And Han's like, yeah, that didn't work out. And he's like, wait, what the fuck? You know, you set this up in the last film and then you don't carry it in. And I think one of the worst things out of the new trilogy is how much they just fuck the relationships. Like they throw in new love interests with each film, but they never actually capitalize on any of them. All of them are just hinted at.
There is no love
never
interest.
Follow through. Yeah,
no.
The closest you got was Raylo, but again,
But he
That still
dies.
makes me laugh.
9
But
just
he
didn't
dies.
develop the way it should have to make it more believable. Literally every time they talk to each other in episode 9 is exposition until the end when they make out, and it's like, what the fuck? Yeah, what were you gonna say, Alexis?
I don't know anymore.
Can I say the quote?
I have it.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
This is Chris Terrio and the Art of the Rise of Skywalker. Is what he says. The most criticized thing about the new trilogy is that it's too derivative or too backward looking. But what if you double down on that? End quote. I'll read it again. The most criticized thing about the new trilogy is that it's too derivative or too backward looking. But what if you double down on that? End quote. As if to suggest that if you just do more of the same thing, it won't be the same thing.
I wouldn't. Maybe that quote. I'm still not 100% of that quote is real. I hope to God it isn't. Because if it is, oh my god. Again, that really speaks to just the thought process of like, yeah, people complain that this is an issue, that we're not moving forward, but let's double down on, and it's so crazy to me because why didn't you do that for the story then? Like, yeah, people had an issue with The Last Jedi, but this is the story, you know, let's double down and tell the story, you know, as it is, so it's one through line story and not a jumble fuck of ideas. But they went like, well, no, you know, bring back Palpatine, bring back this, bring back that. We need to double down. It's interesting that they chose nostalgia to double down on, and not much of anything else. God.
I've got more, though. I want to hit on those clips. Some things that stood out to me that were just horrific. They talk about the relationship that between Rey and Kylo Ren. Chris Terrio, there's a clip where he summarizes what they were through in Force Awakens. Barely mentions Last Jedi, what development happened there.
You know what? You notice so little mention of Last Jedi in those events.
Almost nothing.
Yeah.
all of
Emphasis on
this-
Force Awakens, but you know.
Yeah, no mention of Last Jedi. And then he thinks that because there was a wonderful dynamic between Kylo Ren and Rey that was more than just about a human connection. But then they really just make it the most boring thing possible in episode 9. But more to that, this sequence where Kylo Ren turning to the good side was sparked because Leia sacrificed herself. In that clip where Chris Terrio is saying that Leia dying was actually her Jedi trial, and that she truly became a Jedi Knight by saving her son, by sacrificing herself. I shared the clip, and that's where I say, you hear me say, get the fuck out of here.
But it's like, what did she do exactly? Like
Ben, and she died.
She called his name. She reached out and said Ben. Oh God. so much of the justification for their decisions is just wild to me. Like, really wild.
There was another one where we were talking about Ben Solo. There was one of the producers. She was saying, isn't it great that we get to have Ben and you get to see what could have been? And she literally uses the word potential of what could have been there. But he dies.
That one hurts.
Like, yeah, that hurt a lot.
Because it's like, oh, maybe just leave him alive then. Like, it's this thing of like, well, Darth Vader died for his sins in the original trilogy, so he has to too. Kylo Ren, Ben Solo, Anakin Skywalker, Ben Solo. And it's like, no, like, sacrificing yourself and dying isn't the only form of penance. In fact, I think it's a cheap get out of jail for free card. I just keep saying I think it's so much more interesting if he lived and then the rest of his life is devoted to, trying to make up for his misdeeds. Like, that's real penance. It's crazy because you watch The Rise of Skywalker and you're like, I don't like this, but you're just so interested to know, okay, why, but why, and then you hear why,
you learn the why,
and you're just like, what? Now you're at the what phase.
What the fuck?
Yeah,
that's how it is. I mean, and it also ends with a couple. The last two videos that I shared was comprised of Chris Terrio being like fully admitting that they really were having a hard time writing an ending, writing their way out of the story, and they convinced themselves it was because they didn't want Star Wars to end. And then when they do think of that ending with Rey on Tatooine, it's you literally have in a cadence Terrio say, well, of course it had to end this way, and of course this, and of course that.
It didn't. It doesn't make any sense.
I think, what I think it feels like? They were having trouble thinking of any other ending than Return of the Jedi 2.0. But then they convinced themselves, well, the only reason we can't think of anything else is because of course it's supposed to end like this. And it's like, no, it's not. It doesn't have to be another Return of the Jedi. It doesn't have to be 50,000, 1,000 Death Stars. It doesn't have to be Return of the Jedi, but bigger. You could do something genuinely interesting as a third act. And again, I really gotta apologize to Gerardo. I don't like his script overall. I think there's really shitty things. But it's a more interesting third act. Like the whole fucking trying to free or rebellion on fucking Coruscant. Like, that's way more interesting. Yeah, just listening to the decisions they made and why they made it just makes me go like, it doesn't help. I'll put it that way. It doesn't help going like, because sometimes they, creatives make a decision that you don't agree with and you go like, I still don't agree, but I get where your headspace was and why you thought maybe this way would work. But when they say things like, oh, Star Wars is the story of Skywalkers and Palpatines, it just makes me go like, wait, what? What have you been watching these last 40 plus years? This is kind of weird. Like, I don't know where this point of view ever came from. So,
Palpatines.
I wanted to add in a comment here by David Francisco in response to what he saw these clips, and he said here, it's a short part of it. He says, this just shows what we all been saying. He doesn't understand the story. He was so focused on answering everyone's questions and bringing nostalgia that it caused him to go with the first idea he came up with. And you see that happen a lot in these clips. Like, oh yeah, within 30 seconds, yeah. Literally. And that's what, you bring Palpatine back.
What, honest to God, and again, I just sort of feel it's like, fuck, like there's no big bad. What do we do? You know, I think that's what they were at. And then someone threw out, "You bring back Palpatine," and then 30 seconds later, they're like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, bring back Palpatine. We need a big bad above Kylo." And it's like, no, you fucking don't. This is more interesting. Like,
I still think you could have had that redemption story with Kylo Ren being the main villain, and I really do think it would have been a much more powerful statement where the evil of the dark side and the Sith would once and for all have been vanquished because the last remaining one decided that it was the wrong way.
Yeah.
And him helping tear down the empire of tyranny for all of time would have been the true fruition of your so-called chosen one theory. Like, that would have worked so much if you wanted to see that, if you wanted to work that out. I think there were an infinite number of better ways you could have handled it to have made it work more thematically as a 9-film saga. But I think that that ending in and of itself also serves a better ending for this sequel trilogy.
And of course, there are other scenes, like, and we've talked ad nauseum about this one, the fucking Luke lifting up the X-Wing, and it's just like, yeah, we all immediately went, it has to have the same music from Yoda in Empire. The fans don't recognize it, they'll love it. And it's like, okay, fuck you. But
that scene, though, is emblematic of everything that's wrong with that movie.
But there were things like,
I hated that scene.
I hated it. I hate that people like it too. That's why I hate Alexis. But there's other things where it's just like this need to go back, like with the ray training. Of course, they have another fucking floaty ball.
Was it? I don't know who said it, that they had her lightsaber in the movie from the beginning.
I shared recently information that the lightsaber, the yellow lightsaber that she had been working on it throughout the movie.
I'm actually glad they didn't include that, though, because in movie speak, that's set up, right? Like, if throughout the film you see her working on it, and you would assume that maybe, you know, the legacy saber gets completely destroyed before the third act, and then, you know, and then she's like, fuck, I don't know what to do, you know, I don't have a lightsaber. And then maybe Luke comes in and he's like, you don't need the legacy saber. You don't need my legacy. You don't need anyone's legacy because you got yourself. And then she pulls out her own lightsaber that she's been working on. That's, you know, and then it's like, boom, awesome, beautiful, you know, thematic and everything. But you know that they just wouldn't have done that. It would have been build up and then zero payoff. The payoff would have been her looking at it and Tatooine at the end of the film. That would have been the fucking payoff. But like the floaty Jedi ball, like they go into detail. They're like, oh yeah, that floaty Jedi ball, it was made out of the exact same cast used for the original floaty Jedi ball back on A New Hope. And it's like, isn't it cool that it's exactly the same? I don't know. Again, these tricks I feel worked in The Force Awakens. They did. Because it's like, wow, a modern film with stormtroopers and X-Wings and Jedi. Oh my, you know? But it's long past then, where you need to move past that. You need to move past the nostalgia bait. And again, instead of learning to move past it, they doubled down like fucking crazy. And their justification is the fans will like it. They didn't seem to.
Yeah, it's upsetting because I know for a lot of people out there, Last Jedi ruined the sequel trilogy. And for some, Force Awakens was never that great to begin with for them. But Episode 9, I think, truly just ruined because it's a trilogy without any kind of cohesion. It's a trilogy that is in argument with each other about what the direction should be. And I blame entirely J.J. Abrams, and yet when people discuss this, they love to frame it as if Rian Johnson was equally responsible for the mess that this ended up being.
I don't agree with that.
I hate
obviously, but one way that I just real quick pushback on that, and my pushback is, I always see people like, oh, Ryan took what JJ did and fucking trashed it, you know, and I'm like, well, there's really no evidence really given, and I'm like, well, okay, let's take a step back and let's look at this. He set up Kylo Ren as this conflicted character that is a Vader wannabe. So what did Ryan do? He took that and he used that, and he used that motivation for Kylo to push his character forward. You know, he had fucking Snoke, you look him in the face and say like, you're no Vader, and that sort of realization pushed him forward to go like, okay, fuck the Jedi, fuck the Sith, fuck everything. You know, you had Finn, who was a coward who ran away, who went to, you know, being there for his friends, to finding something to fight for. Like, if you go through you fucking Poe, just a hotshot pilot who is Leia's, you know, second in command, to learning to be a leader like Leia, you know, go from that
Poe
to more
was in
leader.
2 seconds of the first movie.
Yeah, he wasn't
He gave Poe an arc. Like,
he made Poe a character. And I remember watching The Last Jedi and going like, oh my god, Poe's a character now. Like, he's just not hotshot pilot number 2. He took what was there in Force Awakens and then developed something. And I feel like you can make an argument and go like this, and this. He took it and developed it further. Whereas with Episode 9, to take, you know, very obviously, what's his name? Kylo being leader of, you know, the First Order and him being the new big bad, and then immediately reversing it, and, you know, fucking the dead speak, you know, immediately reversing that shit and doing nothing with it. Where you take the lightsaber where it was broken in two, and then it's just immediately fine. There's just a fucking band-aid wrapped around it. Just a lot of these issues. Oh, Rey being nobody, and then immediately going, psych, she was a nobody because her parents chose to be nobodies. They sold her off for drinking money to protect her. You know, it's not what Ryan did, where it was a yes and like developed it. It's a yes but not really with JJ. And that's the argument I would put forward for why I think it's very different going from Force Awakens to Last Jedi, and then Last Jedi to Rise of Skywalker.
There's a clip there that we shouldn't neglect, where I believe it's JJ that says that the connection to Palpatine from Rey served an alternative purpose, where he's basically kind of regurgitating what Reddit says, and we're like, he says something along the lines of, it also gave an opportunity, that familial connection, to explain why she's so powerful in the Force.
And again, that makes me so mad, because that is admitting that your Force power comes from your family lineage. Like, that's
all that matters about you is your name.
What matters about you is your name. And you could
and that doesn't make any sense, because it totally contradicts Anakin. Like, he was just like some kid.
It contradicts Ahsoka.
Yeah. Okay.
Just this over-reliance on lineage is just nauseating. And it's like, yes, that was a cool twist back in 1980. Let's not everything we do in Star Wars now rely on that shit. But they did. So, yeah. You're a Palpatine.
Oh my God.
I will say, I thank the movie for that line, because it never fails to make me laugh.
You're a Palpatine.
You're a Palpatine. You're a wizard, Harry. You're a Palpatine, Rey. And again, oh my God, they literally redo the fucking, because you know that scene in The Last Jedi where he's like, you're nobody, but not to me. And then like he reaches out his hand wanting her to take it. Like they literally redid episode 8 in that moment where, but now he has the helmet and he's like, I know who your parents are. You're a Palpatine. Take my hand. Like almost shot for shot, like the same fucking thing. Like you just redid it, but instead of having her be a no one, you made her a Palpatine. It's like, okay.
I think to close this off, it's an important note, and I think it brings all of this into perspective. And I got this from watching behind-the-scenes features for both Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker. When J.J. Abrams began the writing process for this film, he was most concerned with story and plot. The first thing Rian Johnson did when he began the writing process for Last Jedi was to write down the names of the main characters and for him to write who they were and who they're going to be. If that doesn't say it all, I don't know what else will.
And I know this is like 2 hours of us complaining about Star Wars.
Yet again.
Yet again. But it's for multiple reasons.
Oh, and by the way, apparently we have to have a follow-up to this because Kyle has a lot of things to say.
Oh, yeah.
We're
going to have a follow-up to this because Kyle does have things to say. So, yeah. But Kyle will be defending. He won't be attacking Star Wars. He'll be defending Star Wars. Specifically Force Awakens.
Did he mention that to you, or is that what you suspect?
He did. He lightly mentioned. But the reason we could complain a lot is because one, we can, we do this for fun, and we love Star Wars, so it's all that. But also we want to see Star Wars that is, character driven, and just that's the kind of shit we like out of Star Wars, and that's the kind of shit we want to see. And it just kind of sucks that I don't know if we have anything like that on the horizon. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think any of the shows are going to be that. We still have no idea what the movies are going to be. Oh, the Taika Waititi movie. Fuck. Mm-hmm. I'm excited for that. Yep. I'm really excited for that. But we don't know what it's going to be until we get news. We can't really. So yeah, all we can really do right now is talk about what's already out. And what's out right now isn't necessarily to our liking.
Yeah, and it's interesting because our perspectives are very much in the extreme minority of most Star Wars fans. I think one of the things that distinguishes, let's say, our group, Moreno, David, you, Peter, and Kyle, and myself, is we happen to really like, if not love, both the Clone Wars and The Last Jedi. And that's not, I think, something that's typical for most Star Wars fans, just to begin with. Mm-hmm. We happen to have very critical views of The Mandalorian, where it's received universal critical acclaim, literally anywhere else on the internet. I have heard no one, literally, of all the podcasts or reviews that I've gone out of my way to listen to, even mention the things that we're talking about. Which, I mean, fine, everybody has their point of view. Everybody has... of course, the way that they see things. But, like, you're curious, no one talks about the issues with that show that I think the way that we do anyway. And our like, disagreements or things that we don't like comes from a place of love, not a place of hate. That shouldn't be forgotten here.
And I will say, for all my bitching, the only film that they've released that I've actively, hate is The Rise of Skywalker.
That's true.
Everything else, I may not, in varying degrees, but nothing I despise. And that goes for The Mandalorian too. I enjoy a good chunk of it. But again, critique is more fun.
Yeah, and there's definitely a lot of it.
Plus, it's I feel like it's constructive. It's not just bashing.
Right. So... that'll do it for us on today's show. I want to thank Miss Moreno. I want to thank Mr. Peter Martinez for this discussion. I had a good time here. I think we had some wonderful stuff. And of course, it ended up being 3 hours. That's wonderful. You can listen to our podcasts anywhere you listen to podcasts. Wishka, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, every single Sunday. Stay under the spotlight for more programming here. And until next time, bye-bye.